feels that.
This is Fern Halls.
And you are listening to Aetheryte Radio.
Aetheryte Radio.
Here we go.
All right, hello and welcome to Aetheryte. What?
The fish has no eyeball. It's missing one eyeball. That fish has seen some things. Well, maybe not seen some things.
It's only half seen some things.
Have seen some things.
So is this going to factor into the next session of first edition then? You're going to fish spit, but it's only one-eyed fish.
It's a disadvantage.
Yeah, it's a one-eyed fish, you guys.
Yeah, well, is it disadvantage though? Because she would set the trajectory of the fish.
That's true.
If
Good
anything,
argument.
I think there's the potential for a lower level second attack because then the eye comes out after the fish.
Well, I mean, it's already gone.
It's a gross out attack.
Gross
Like,
out
oh,
attack.
fish, oh, eyeball.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, look, I love that already the four of us are back together again after so long apart. And we're not even 10 seconds into the podcast and we've already taken a tangent.
Literally like a -0 into the show. And Zen's just like,
You guys know it is my goal at the beginning of every show to just upset things just a little. Just see where I can get us
just a
to
little
go.
bit.
Yeah, well, I am
And-
upset now by one-eyed
There you go.
fish, so I'm kidding. No, I'm excited. Fusion, you want to take that intro again? You want to give us a good intro?
What was my intro not good?
No, it's
You
good.
said
It's fine.
2 words
Oh,
of it.
I got
and
it.
you
That's
didn't get
right, because of the fish. See, I'm already distracted by the. See, like you're all talking, and I'm thinking, man, the only thing that could have made that sadder is if it was playing like that Sarah McLachlan video, like the adopt a
In the eyes
Hey,
of
Fusion.
Exactly.
angels.
for
you
just
say that
10
you-
cents a day. You too can adopt a one-eyed fish.
One-eyed fish. Would you say that you floundered with that opening?
Here we go. It begins.
Miss you,
Fru-
Fruity.
Fruity is not on. I don't know why
Yeah.
we're doing this.
Mm.
He would be proud.
He would.
Hello and welcome to Aetheryte Radio, Gamer Escape's
What's up?
Final Fantasy 14 podcast. We're all here today, in case you couldn't tell. Today is our patch 6.3 review. There will be spoilers. If you have not done all the big story stuff, we love you. Maybe don't listen. You have been warned.
Turn back now.
Turn back now. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. That's what we're talking about today. Before that though, I think we were gonna save this a little bit for the show. We were talking before the show.
Mhm.
I got my house. I got the large plot.
Yeah.
After gosh, how long has housing been in the game for individuals?
Oh my god.
That long?
It's a great question.
9 years?
Like
According to some,
70%
it's
of
never
that
been in the
time
game.
I've had the money set aside for it. Finally got that damn large
Yeah.
plot.
I am so happy for you.
Very exciting.
Oh my
This
god.
is, I mean, it's wild. We've talked about housing so many times on this podcast, and obviously I think a lot of us have seen on Twitter or maybe in your Discords or in your communities, you've seen a lot of people who are like, I finally got it. And it's like, I think we're all so happy, and I'm so happy for you, Fusion, because
I'm
oh my
so
gosh, you
relieved.
have tried for so long. But it also is tough because I know a lot of people, and some of you who may even be listening, didn't get it.
Yeah.
And this is, you've still been trying for however long and you still can't get a house. And like seeing all of the feedback and everything online, I think it's just becoming more and more apparent to everybody, right? That no matter how many iterations they try to do of this, no matter how many small improvements, no matter how many additional plots, the system just fundamentally does not work for the scale of this game anymore. And for the amount of people that really want to be a part of this. And so many people have even just been turned off from engaging with it at all because it's such a hassle and it's so frustrating and it's so time consuming. And I mean, it's much better with the raffle system, but I really hope that Square Enix keeps listening to this feedback because we love this game and the housing is so good in it. But there are improvements to be made, and they need to come up with something that's going to be more flexible long term so that literally nobody has to do this again. It's not the fault of one person who came up at the last second and put in their entry because it's a random draw. So like
Yeah.
it does, it's not their fault. It's not the fault of the
Yep.
person whose entire FC bought a ward because they all wanted to be together. It's not anybody's fault in those regards. It's the system's fault at this point that there is
Mhm.
frustration because the system is designed in such a way that it can take, like you were saying, Fusion, 8+ years
Yeah.
to even be able to land a large
That
house.
said, I have noticed, at least in my personal experiences with listening to people, seeing stuff posted, and fucking around with houses myself, the raffle system has brought down the anger and anxiety level of the community as a whole. So while it is not perfect, it at least was a step in the right direction, it seems like.
I think so. I mean, there's definitely like I did a YouTube. Oh my god, I did a YouTube. I woke up at like 6:50 in the morning because I couldn't sleep. So I was looking at my phone. I'm like, I might as well just get up and record my reactions because F it at this point. And it was terrible because like I was the first person to bid on this plot. And then like right away, either like that same day, next day, there was one other person. So for like the whole week, it was 50-50 odds, which is just like, it's great, but also sucks. Right. And then I come in, I look, there's a third person. I'm like, oh, look at this son of a, like if 3 gets drawn.
Calm down.
Well, right. But also like, I'm like,
Yeah.
like didn't get any sleep. I'm irritable. Like I'm like 3. And then I got it. I was like, oh my God. But it's been interesting because I've been looking at Twitter. I've seen a lot of people, that didn't get houses. Some people that did. A lot of people that did that were the first number 1 on the plot. But also, I feel like in the plots that I checked, there weren't a lot of bids, and I was only looking at large plots. But I think I only saw 1 in like double digits.
Yeah, no, that's actually true from what I checked as well. A lot of it was like maybe up to 6, 1 to 6. This is Balmung too, so
Yeah.
a lot of competition. And then there were a couple plots that were like 20. But those are the ones where a whole FC is on that one, trying to get that specific house.
So I did look at one of the mixed awards, and it wasn't that high. Like we thought it would be like this giant clusterfuck, right? It didn't seem that bad. I think like the plot in Shirogane for privates had like when I looked a couple days before lottery was decided, there was like 8 people on it.
Yeah,
which is
I mean,
wild.
Yeah.
Because I've seen that with like 60
I know.
before.
I mean, one thing I would say is that I've seen a lot of people like using, I think, that as a defense of like the current system is totally fine because like look, some of these only have a few entries. But I don't know if we can use that as like a fair judgment of the actual demand or need for housing in the game, because I know for myself, I would love a large house. If I had the option right now to just upgrade, if Square Enix was like, hey Rook, you can get a large house right now, I'd be like, I'm gonna work my butt off and I'm gonna get that house right now.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I am just so generally discouraged about even engaging with the system, let alone if you're even somebody that's keeping up an awareness of when these raffles run, as opposed to, oh, hey, I had this thought about I'd really like to try and get a house, and then you run around and you're like, oh, I guess not. Or, like, I don't know if we can use that as a fair judgment, because in so many other games, like housing is just available on demand whenever you want it, whenever you have the resources for it. And I would be more interested in seeing the numbers of how people engage with something like that versus this kind of system where I think a lot of people have been burned out on it and tired of it and don't want to even go into the raffle for it, may not even realize that it's going. New players who don't really know how housing functions, like all these kinds of things, let alone people who may not even want to get a house because learning all the glitches and things to decorate it in a way that feels intuitive and that you would want to is such a hassle.
That's actually
Well, I mean, there's like
the
the simple decorations, but then there's also like the crazy shit you see get posted on like Twitter, and you're like, I want that, and then you have to learn what it how everything involved in it. It's just nuts.
Yeah, just like learning to float stuff. So, and I actually have a friend who can't do it because it hurts her hands too much to have to do the clicks that quickly, right? So while I think that we do have a fairly good housing system as far as like acquiring furniture, the decorating part needs a work. I'm not condoning these. We have mods already made So it's possible, or you just put stuff in the air, just like ESO. So Square Enix, if you wanna switch to that system, maybe hit up some modders. It's already made. Just pay them. Just pay them.
There's definitely some changes I would love to see to housing, especially doors. Just doors, not a partition, just a door. Like I'm trying to I have all these door frames. I'm trying to put the partitions in, but then it's sticking out all the way on one side, and you can't wallpaper the partitions. How have they just not made a door?
Yeah, there's very limited doors that are just in,
they're all
specific
partitions,
tiles.
or it's a window door that doesn't actually open. What? How do we not have just a plain ass door?
Yeah. I mean, we have so many amazing items, and they just keep adding more, right?
Yeah.
We just keep getting more housing items. So again, I think this is something that modern MMOs have as a feature, and I am hoping that with a lot of the other updates and upgrades, this has to be on their minds. We know that they're constantly having to add server space, and that cannot just be an indefinite thing forever. So yeah, I'm huge congrats to everybody who got one, because it is so exciting, and I've seen so many people that I know have been trying for it for so long. But I think fundamentally too, it's just another reminder that this just needs to be overhauled.
Oh, you know what I discovered? If you ever need a sleep aid, trade somebody 50 million gil. You will fall asleep. It is very boring.
Oh, I see. It took me a second.
Yeah, you need 50 million for a large. To explain that, you need 50 million for a large. And I wasn't doing anything with my money, so I lent some out to friends. And I'm sitting there, trade.
You can only do 1 million at a time.
1 million, trade. And I'm actually falling asleep during the course of this, and I was like, remember that for later. But I wanted to add, actually, because you mentioned all of the amazing items that we have, which is true. We have some amazing stuff, and we got some amazing stuff.
That new waterfall partition? Ooh.
Yes.
Ooh,
but
we love
did
that.
anybody enter the furnishing contest? That's going, well, I guess it's over now, but that'll be announced in April.
I didn't enter it.
Yeah, and there were some housing furnishing contest winners even implemented in 6.3, like the little lemonade stand and stuff.
Yeah.
I was telling my husband about this, and I was like, oh yeah, and they just implemented this thing from the last furnishing contest, and he asked me, when was that? And I was like, look it up, 2019.
Oh,
took a bit for that.
A little bit.
Huh.
Well,
I hadn't realized it was that far back. Wow.
Well,
Jeez.
I mean, they did have the expansion and pandemic stuff that was happening for that, so I guess I can understand the delay.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Zen,
But
did
just
you
keep
say
in
that-
mind,
Did you say you submitted something for this one?
I did. I submitted 4 things.
What did you do?
I don't know if I can say, because they said don't post your stuff up on Twitter and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
No
Because
worries.
technically you submitted it to them, so therefore they own.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I'm like, I'm not sure whether to say what it is.
Okay.
But you guys bet your asses if I win any of them, I'm gonna be like, guys, guess what? And even if
Usually-
I don't, I'm
And you
gonna
know
post
what?
them up.
And you know what? If
usually
you
once
do
they're
win and they do
local.
make it, I'm gonna put it in my house and never kill it off, like the animals
There you
in
go.
Rook's pasture.
No,
I knew this was going to happen.
Beautiful segue. You like that?
Mhm.
I hope some of mine get picked. Just one. Even
I
just
hope
one
some of
them.
yours do
That'd be
too.
cool.
And
That'd be
I'm,
really cool.
I'm not just saying this out of guilt for
No.
killing off all your animals that I
No.
named after
Oh
you.
my God. Listen, I talked to Rook about this, about the show, after the show last time. I asked, hey, what was that special ritual? And we came to the conclusion that we could not share it because much like a birthday wish, if you talk about it, it's not going to come true.
Yes,
Okay.
if when you sacrifice
So you
animals named
killed-
after
you
Aetheryte
killed
radio
us.
co-hosts
And used us like a birthday cake candle?
to make a beautiful wish fusion.
It's a beautiful wish. We just can't talk about it.
Yeah, we can't talk about it. Yeah.
Rook's like,
Also,
I'm
I
gonna,
just needed
I'm
more
gonna
space
kill,
for other animals.
I'm gonna kill whatever fusion is and wish for world peace.
I mean, that's worth it. Don't you think that's worth it?
If it works, yeah.
I did. I was like, hey, as long as it was
So-
like for tigers or griffins. She's like, no, it was definitely before
Look.
tigers and griffins came out.
Look. Would that be worth it? Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Could
No.
Rook have just renamed the newer animals us? Yes.
The fusion, I have themes for all my animals. So all the little monkeys.
And one of them is no longer a co-host.
All the monkeys were named after you, and all my other
Oh.
animals already had themes going. But then I had to replace the monkeys with other animals. I'll get them back again.
Don't let
Fusion,
him. Don't let him
I
guilt
would-
you.
I would never sacrifice you for world peace. I would rather watch the world burn. I just want you to know that. As much as I love the world, look.
Chaotic. Okay.
Yeah.
Choosing chaos. Wow.
You're my friend. I love you. No sacrifice in those regards.
Wow.
Goodness.
All right.
Now, if it brought Thelodious and Masaka Vana
Yeah.
back to life, maybe.
Wow. Not world peace, but
You know what?
There's always
At
a price.
least she's consistent, man.
There's always a price. Everybody has
Yep.
their price. It's
that's
just
funny.
two ancient, beautiful men.
Yes.
That's what it
And
costs.
ladies.
And a lady maybe.
And possibly the 80s. We don't know.
Yeah, it's true.
Now that that's out of the bag, I have to ask. We got to tier list this.
God.
Emmett Cell,
If you only got to pick one.
Emmett Cell, Kithledeus, Vana,
Your face.
but also Nofika and Halone.
No.
How do you where?
I don't care to do this. I decline. Let's talk about 6.3. Let's talk about 6.3.
Okay.
Yep.
We can do that. So we'll start with story.
It was good.
It was good. Nice. Good job, AI written review. It was good.
Good. It was good
It-
one. Liked this patch.
It had element of plot. I thought it was interesting. I liked the ending, and it felt like, for me personally, where Endwalker maybe wasn't quite what I was envisioning, I feel like maybe this is kind of helping redeem that a little bit.
Oh, really? Explain.
Yeah.
Please do
So,
explain.
so again, remember, spoilers. So we go through all this stuff, and then at the end we see Golbez on the moon of the 13th, but he's in the crater, which is where they kept, say it with me, Zodiark. Everybody say it with me.
Number. What?
And the camera kind of
Say
goes down a
number.
little. Number. And the camera kind of pans down a little bit, but there's like nothing there. So it's like, what happened to the fragment of Zodiark on the 13th? Like it's that idea for me that like, oh hey, maybe
Well, they screwed up.
yeah, but like I'm curious like what effect that's going to have, right? It's
Do you
I think
think that fragment of Zodiark is why the 13th is like that? Like it got out, but it
don't know.
didn't get
No.
it didn't get smashed back
I don't
into
know.
the source.
I
So
think
where did it go?
I like the idea that like yes, the Hydaelyn Zodiark saga is done, right? But I like the idea, at least right now, that there are still potential like repercussions of all of that.
It's
Sure.
zero.
Yeah.
Like obviously
Zodiark's fragment is zero.
like two expansions away from now, we're gonna be like, okay, they're still doing this. But right now, on the heels of it, I think that's super interesting, and I would love to see just a little bit more, just to kind of have like an
The
actual
whole game is about the echoes of that, literally.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I would
it's
love.
gonna
I'd love
always
to.
be there.
I would love to see a little bit more of that. Yeah, and I think that's really cool. Also, Rubicante was like we only see him for like 5 minutes, but like he was a really cool character. I really wanted to know more aside from like the little lore background quests that we unlock. Like I wish we would have been able to spend more time with him. And the same goes.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah, I mean the same goes for the other four fiends as well. It's obviously it's this in between story, and so they're not here long. They show up to say hey, and then you fight them, and that's it. So that's kind of a bummer.
Should we go through the whole thing backwards? That'd be fun.
We could,
The whole patch.
and then
Oh,
before
gosh.
that,
we ate some buns, and that was pretty
Yeah,
much the
the
whole
buns
patch.
were
That was
I
a
think.
beautiful bun.
yeah, before that we had a
Beautiful.
well, no, even before that though, I think one of my other issues, and this was an issue back in 6.1, completely ignoring the void quests.
Yeah. Well,
Because so we fight oh gosh, I can't what's the other fiend?
Burberry.
Cognazo.
Oh,
Cognazo.
Kainazo.
Cognazio?
Kainazo.
Cognazzo, or the names. I'm like, how the hell did you
Kainazo.
say that?
Can I be honest with everybody? I could not remember. I still can't. What is Fireman's name?
Rubicante.
Rubicante. I could not remember what his name was, so I just kept trying to think of vaguely fire-related Italian words. So for a while in mine, I was like, Fiammetta! And then, like, my playthrough at another point,
Oh
I
my
was
God.
like,
I mean, that's close. That's like
I think I
fire
called him-
mantle. That's what
Yeah.
it is.
And then I called him Hot Cheetzio for a while. I never
'cause-
played
Oh my
Ford. I'm so
God.
Well,
sorry.
Ruby Conte is kind of like
amazing.
Ru Picante, you know, so that
Mhm.
goes in there
Yeah.
with the fire foods.
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, just like 6.1 to me felt like they were rehashing the Void Quest story, right? It's like, we're gonna make a portal to the 13th. It's like,
We're
okay,
gonna throw something through just to see if it's safe.
I
Yeah.
get it. It was a side quest. Not everybody did it. Did it still feel dumb? Yes.
Yeah.
Let me finish. I see you. Let me finish. And then we have 6.3 where Rubicante destroys the portal in the ruins, or the Alzadal thing. And it's like, oh no, how are we gonna? Well, I wanted to call it the Alzadal Undersea Ruins because that's what it's called in
Yep.
11, but
what
that's
it
not what
is.
it's called in 14. It's the treasure vault. It's a treasure vault. It's a different
Or
thing.
like they're like, you have to go out to Baflau, and I was like, that's familiar too.
I loved that. I was like, oh, it is called 11 reference. But yeah, so they destroy the one in the treasure vault, and it's like, oh no, if only we had a way to get to the 13th. And I'm sitting over here like,
We have like 4 guys.
Void quests.
Well, but this is the setup, and this is what I went. For those who
Okay,
are watching
yeah,
the video,
yeah.
that's why I went that when you started talking, because I actually think it was, in a sense, I mean, almost like a fake out, which I was there with you in 6.1. I wasn't totally sure because I was going, but wait, if you did those other quests, and of course, like 14 does and doesn't oftentimes make requirements of you that are arduous, but it's not like they don't, you know? I mean, we've had them make various things necessary. We've had them make the Crystal Tower raids necessary. We've had them do these kinds of things. And so for me, I was like, I'm not going to rule out that they ever make these void quests relevant, because the characters over here, they kept some of them, like Anukulai, they kept that boy around for ages. And I mean, it's one of those things where I wasn't sure with 6.1 if they were just going to be like, oh, but that's just kind of a fun thing if you do it, and then they would never talk about it again, or if they were going to do something like this where it would somehow come full circle. And I actually really love that they did it this way, because here with 6.3, I think we got to see that full circle, right? Because you can see with Ishtola, she's already thinking about, like, what have I been working on? Well, I talked about earlier that I've been working on a way to get back to the first. And then you as a player, if you've done those quests, you know that on the first, we have an ensemble who are trying to find a more reliable way, much like they actually have in the Void, to be able to create these portals at will in places, which would give us much more access rather than only having this one entry point. So, like, all of those things, and plus we have characters that are literally ex-heroes from the Void who are over there.
Yeah.
Like,
Not
They're
only
going
that,
back.
we have the Crystal Tower. We've gotten there through the Crystal Tower
Yeah,
before.
I
We have
know, and
multiple ways to get
I
there.
100%, like, as soon as they're like, oh no, it's closed, I'm like, well, okay, so we'll be going up and using the throne at
So-
some point here now.
My theory is that we are being Star Trek about this. Like, our character is just being Star Trek about this. It's Prime Directive time.
Original or Kelvin timelines?
It's all Star Trek follows the Prime Directive, okay?
Okay.
You're not allowed to, like, meddle in the affairs of what's going on. You just sit back and you go, okay, is that what we're doing? Okay, I'm coming. That's fine.
I have this feeling that they're going to try and unite everything, so that Ishol is going to develop some kind of way, perhaps working in tandem with Grahatia, that the Crystal Tower can be used, as we've seen, to move not only through time and space, but through parallel dimensions. And so they'll find some way to reopen those portals, which then would also give us access, even if we can't directly get into the Void, it would give us access to, like, the first at the very least, and then we'd have more insights with the Void. So, like, I really do hope that they bring those all together, and if they do something down the road where they make those quests necessary in any way, shape, or form, they can always just make it so that some iteration of that unlocks off of the single role quest you're required to do for the Shadowbringers MSQ.
Just
And
throw it in
then
the
you could
codex.
spin off. Yeah, like, they could do it. They could do it.
They're gonna mix in the 24-mans. We're just gonna go back, hit up Alphic and Nemia and be like, hey, time and space, fate. Can we?
I mean, that's also good. Oh boy, do I have a lot of thoughts about the Alliance Arc when we get there. But all of this to say, to elaborate on my own, the story good this time.
Story good.
Good.
Yeah.
I will say that, I mean, 6.3, it's hard to follow off of 6.2.
Yes.
6.2 was meaty. We went to the Void for the first time. We had the reveal of new character.
Second time.
What do you mean second time?
Where does the World of Darkness
World of
raid take
Darkness.
place?
No, get out. You know
No!
what I mean.
No!
Get out of here. You get out of here.
We're literally
I'm
gonna
talking-
use that same door that takes us into the raid to fix this whole issue with the destroyed portal.
I
It
am
is
talking
going to
about-
the same place.
I am talking about not in some little alliance, right? I'm
Yeah.
talking about like for the first time
Little?
in the story. Okay, oh my god,
To-
I'm
to
done. I'm
understand
done.
how it
It's
works.
not small.
fine.
You
I'm
literally
no
go
more.
into the
Please
belly of a
Continue,
dog.
Please
Like
continue.
it's
Please continue.
My
big
gosh.
dog.
No, I'm just saying that we have long wanted the narrative to take us to the void in the
Mhm.
MSU as an exploratory thing and a zone and a world and a place that exists. All up in here nitpicking as bad as YouTube comments. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Calling us
So-
out, calling YouTube out. Be careful.
So we have finally made it to the void in the the major narrative.
Mhm.
And we set foot into it for the first time, as in like actually setting foot through like into this world, this realm in a way that I think is going to be exploratory. And we had Zero, and we had, my God, the Vitra reveal with his hot new glow up. We had all this other stuff in 6.2 and it was a really long hunk of quest. Like there was so much stuff in there, as well as all of the stuff with Golbez and Barbaricia and the domains. We had that entire zone that's just Zero's domain that exists. So it's very hard to follow that sheer scope and the sheer excitement of 6.2. I think 6.3 very much kept the momentum going for me, and in a way that is so lovely because, I mean, hey, we had our introduction of characters, and now we continue to have our character exploration within the context of our own world and who they are and what the identities are. And I mean, like, we get some more great stuff with Reacher and his relationship to his sister and his people, but we mostly get Zero this patch, which is so good, and I love her. I die for her, and she's so
Charles.
sweet and pure, and I love her going around. I'm such a sucker for like person learns how to feel and experiences things and makes friends and loves people
And I'm the
eats bugs.
opposite.
No.
I've just seen it too much. I've just seen it too much.
I am in the. I'll play the middle of the road here. I get being able to like that because it lets you see a character develop. But also, yes, I have seen it before.
Well, I will be over
Charles.
here eating my fill of it.
Yeah,
Because I love it.
Please continue.
Go, Charles.
It's
Go,
just-
Charles.
No, it's just like I get we had 6.1 and 6.2. We've learned a little bit about why the void is the void, how people think in it. So we understand kind of what Zero's thinking. And then as we push her, and Alice, just like she did with Xenos, pushes Zero, which is great, to think about things in a different way. But it's just the reaction that Zero has, just because she's so subdued. It just reminds me of that kind of teach me how to live robotic girl trope that I've seen it too many times. Now, I'm interested because this is 14 and it's going to take us to a great place, and I know that. But just in the moment, in this parcel of story, that's where I'm like, okay, I get it. Okay, let's keep going. Let's push it through. What is Lapis Manalis? Let's go there. Yeah, okay, cool. Let's see what this is. So it's not horrible, and I'm not saying that it's horrible. It's just it belabors the point for just a little bit too long for me. Just a little bit.
Okay.
I
mean,
like
I
that
can
she's
see
a
it.
foodie. She's basically
Yes.
learning how to
Which
be a
is cool.
human by
Yeah.
eating good foods.
That's
Well, I
that's
also
how
love
I think
this,
they
though.
mix that trope up. Is they're like, it's not just like I'm going to feel emotions, but it's also like, ooh, food. Like it's just
Well, I
it's just a
love
little
that.
something extra. Like it helps to give a little more kind of like characterization to this whole
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
I love that too, though, because that really gave me an insight into void scent. Like, I almost view Zero not just as this trope, which to be fair, I get it. I mean, I think too, we've also in recent history in 14 had this a bunch. I mean, we had the whole Omicron, everything, like
Yeah.
both the little side quests with Alpha and Omega and the Omicron tribe quest. So this theme of like the unfeeling one who gets feelings, not to mention Omega Ultimate that's coming out soon. I mean, like it's one of those things where like I get it. It is a trope. It's used a lot. Do I love it? Yes. But is it one of those things where like we've had it a lot recently? Sure. Yes. And I felt like actually one of the things I thought was interesting about Zero as a conduit for this, though, was beyond that, which is the discussion of what do we do with the void scent? Because void sent as entities. If we even have right now the thought that it's possible to reverse or salvage or bring back or something the void. And I saw in chat the mentions of Gaia and Doreen. Yes, I think they're a total tie-in that could be part of this Eden, the replenishing of the first. These are things that if they decide to use them, which I don't know why they wouldn't, but if they decide to use them, this could all be part of this reversal process, right? But a huge part of this is, what does it mean to be this inhuman? Are they completely inhuman? We know as of right now that there's a certain point in which entities can't be saved. Zero's unique in that she is part mortal, part void sent. And through like our use of the crystal and stuff and the light, we were able to bring her more back into balance to get in touch with that humanity. But I loved some of the stuff with the food because I literally, as we were playing through it, I was like, how do void sent taste? Do they taste? And as I was talking, I was like,
Wait.
if you're
Are you saying how do they perceive taste, or like when you eat them, what do they taste like?
No, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes, let me clarify. Yes. But how do they taste things, right? If they no longer eat with their mouth, like, you know what I mean? If they're just siphoning ether out of things, how are their senses? How are their perceptions? How are, are they malicious of will? Are they restless in the sense of energy and the fact that darkness is, affiliated with that? And so to actually get those perceptions from Zero, I think a lot of this too was just the things that we think of that compose mortal life, and are void sent still capable of feeling them? And I think that's interesting, honestly.
Do we have any instances previously in the game when we encounter void sent, like say Hawk Manor? Do they comment on that? Like, I feel like that too is a trope where it's like, your aether is delicious. Well, what does it taste like?
I don't.
Your aether tastes like the lifeblood of the universe. What does it taste like?
Yeah, I definitely get that Zero is a window into the void sense, but like, yeah, robots can't taste either. How would Omega feel? You know what I mean? It's just, I want more of it, and maybe we're going to get into more of it, but it seems like, and we'll definitely talk about this. Does it seem to you that the next chapter of the story will even take place in the void?
It's gotta.
Well, when you say next chapter, are we talking
6-4
expansion?
6-4.
I
Yeah.
see.
Like even immediate next.
Yeah.
I think 6.4. I think we'll go back into the void. We'll
The goal
find
right
some
now
way.
is finding a way in.
It'll be the crystal tower and the throne. We'll go back into the void because
Don't sound upset.
No, I mean the void.
I'm just saying it,
not the moon of the void.
I'm saying like that because it's predictable as hell. That's all. But I feel like we'll go back to the domain. Like, they didn't spend all that time developing that area with that questionable statue for us to never go back there. We will go back to the void. We will visit the domain again. Like, absolutely.
Speaking of the statue, I just have to really fast. I'm so sorry. No, but I love it. My gosh, I mean, Zero is a paladin.
Yeah.
So like, we don't know what they're gonna do with her, but I think more and more the possibility of a shard is very real. I know some people have conflicted feelings about that if it does pan out to be true, and of course they could absolutely not do that, or they could subvert our expectations in very specific ways. People also are like, maybe Golbez is a shard, or maybe, all those are things that I think absolutely you can make arguments for. I mean, gosh, we don't even know timeline-wise how shards line up. Like, maybe Zero's mom was our shard or something, because those tidbits we get. Yeah, like, there's a lot. But the fact that she has been revealed in this patch to canonically be a paladin, and that the statue in that zone is of a featureless paladin in such a way that it looks just like our statue, our figurine of the Warrior of Light that we got with the expansion. And obviously Paladin was the featured, meteor class of that expansion. But it is ambiguous enough, and the face and the build are ambiguous enough that it really could be either. And the fact that Endwalker OST you sent me, Fusion, on the back has a female paladin on it, who many people thought was
are looking way too much into that artwork.
That's not true. That's not true. They always hide stuff like that in art. They always do.
It was just the countdown artwork. I think you're looking way too much into it.
They have revealed major things in artwork like that before, that people then after the fact
like the bunny. The bunny dancer.
Look, I'm saying. but I'm just saying that I think that if they were going to be like finally at long last giving a feminine counterpart to Meteor, that is actually a pretty big thing in the game and in representation in the game. I mean, because Meteor's fine and I loved Ardbert, but like
We all know that the Warrior of Light canonically is not a dude. We just know that.
We know this in our hearts. We're not dumbos.
No.
So no, what I mean is,
And when we
what I
get
mean
there,
is
it's
that-
going to be
kidding.
great. It's just this
Kidding.
chapter.
So to build off of that,
Yeah.
Golbez has to be someone amazing that we don't see coming. We probably do see it coming because we're all like way up in this story's butthole right now. But in 4, the twist for who Golbez is very, very fun. And just in case anybody's like playing through 4 right now because you're interested in the story, I'm not gonna say who it is, but it's interesting. It's an interesting twist. So this Golbez also has to be like a what? How could that be?
It is interesting, and I liked that they gave, I think, a little bit more of a sympathetic look, kind of, to them this time around. I agreed with your observation earlier, Fusion. The only thing that I felt, I mean, I enjoyed the dungeon and the story and the Reaper lore and everything else that took us back to Garlemald. Again, it wasn't as exciting as 6.2, but I mean, still, the story beats felt robust, the characterization felt robust, and I thought there were some memorable moments that were very good. The only thing that I felt was maybe a little short to me, like you said, was Rubicante. Oh, I remember his name this time. Look at me go.
Oh, you know.
That bit, I felt like it was kind of
Yeah,
quick.
no. I agree. Since I personally like Barbaricia more, but Rubicante is like the best one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Personal
it's-
feelings aside,
Like,
and,
objectively.
and really quick, I was kind of bummed that we didn't see him in the Void because I wanted to see his domain.
Yes.
So,
Well,
yeah, I
more.
get to go
we
there.
might
He
have
turns the
gotten
mountain
a
into his
peek
domain, yeah.
of that with the
Because
during
it
the
changes
fight.
names.
Yeah, he does
Yeah.
bring it in, but still, I
Yeah.
wanted to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the view into his internal torment and all that stuff. Like, also, can we just say he's so naked?
Yep. They kept it very accurate.
Yeah,
But-
no, he is.
But naked.
Yep. He only wears a cape. That's basically it. Yeah.
And his intro starts with a full-on crotch shot, and he throws his cloak, and I was like, for a second, I 100% thought his diddly bits were gonna be
Goodness.
there. Like,
With
for
the way
sure.
Amano draws, it's kind of wispy, so you never know, right?
I mean, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I love the ambiguous, form-fitting, full-body spandex. I love it. It's so classic Final Fantasy, but
That's his skin.
Yeah. That's just a skin.
He's like the water guy. What's that? The Shape of Water guy. It just closes up inside.
I don't even know what you're
Look,
talking about.
there are certain Aura headcanons
Yeah.
that are similar based off of
what-
amphibians and reptiles.
What is
so.
this show turning into right
I
now?
don't even know. But yeah, so I mean, it's sacrilegious, and I'm gonna say it. Less meat bun time, more Rubicante bun time. I'm just saying.
Why can't we
Right.
have both?
I will.
We could have both, but we didn't.
Yeah, I think for me,
It's a zero sum game apparently.
His bun's out. His bun's
Yeah.
out.
No, I mean, story and things.
yeah, I mean, like I think we spent the most time with Barbaricia because 6.2 was just really long, especially in that middle
Yeah.
area.
Mhm.
And that makes me sad because I think after having seen all 4 of the Fiends now, I would have loved to have spent more time with Rubicante. He seemed like a super interesting character, and he's like I'm glad we got him like outside of a dungeon because at least we get a couple
Yeah.
more minutes with him. But that's still really only a couple more minutes with him, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
His dialogue lines were so good. And
Yeah.
I genuinely loved the dialogue he has with you in the cutscene afterwards. Again, it completely recontextualized how I saw them as figures. The one out of all of these that I feel like was the most horrifically shortchanged, and maybe he's like this in the actual game too, I don't know, but is Kenyatso, who he just like shows up at the end of the dungeon and he's like, I'm here to do a distraction, and then he just like vanishes. And I was
Yeah.
like,
The worst. If not
he
for
the worst?
Scarmelion, he's the worst.
Yeah,
okay.
that's true.
I mean,
Okay.
they
I like
definitely
to-
put
the two of
emphasis on the
them
ones
are-
that I think probably earned it more. But
Yes,
like,
it's true.
it's still a shame to see so much time on Barbaricia when Rubicante just is like, you know,
And-
I thought he
and-
was way more interesting than the others. But
there's a definite divide between the water and earth slash death and wind and fire fiends, even in 4.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
even in 14, Ifrit,
Yeah.
Garuda are the stars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we got Rubicante, Barbaricia. It's pretty funny how that happened.
Hmm.
You know what?
Hmm.
This is a silly thing to nitpick about, but I would say like Titan was very difficult when it first
It's
came
true.
out.
Well,
Oh,
I
the
mean,
fight? Yeah.
that's
yeah.
for another reason though. When the game
Yeah.
first came
But
out,
they
that's a
did
whole
make
other-
fun of him.
Mhm.
They called him Titus.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's
We
true.
did.
Yeah.
And then we had
Yeah.
Leviabetus.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've honestly really liked the Four Fiends. I think that they're serving their role very well in the context of this in such a way that, I mean, and I am so happy that at least they have put in the additional lore afterwards if they weren't going to be
Yeah.
able to do
Yeah.
all the other stuff
they
with the
didn't
scope of
have
the
that.
story. Because yeah, I do feel like there are some big gaps there, like you said. If they didn't have that, I mean, I just don't think that using them as a device in the narrative would have been nearly as
they needed those quests in order to say that this is 14's version of them, because if they didn't, it's like, oh hey, they copy pasted the 4 feeds and Golbez, cool. I mean, it still kind of feels like that to to a point, but like they're weaving it into the overall 14 narrative with those side quests. So make sure to do those side quests.
Yes.
Because they're very good.
I do see the question in chat. How do we feel about not getting a side quest series for Trials this expansion? And I think for me, I kind of miss it, and that I do oftentimes really enjoy the stories of those, and I like seeing what they can do with those bosses in a slightly different setting. But I do think that these bosses have felt really on point, and we've gotten so much of their content that, like, their fights, their music, their designs, all of that stuff feels very memorable to me, and I think it does serve the narrative well to use them in that way, especially because we're getting so many other things. But, I mean, yeah, does it feel maybe as fully, like, its own fully encapsulated thing as some of the other trial sets
Right.
do? No, but I mean,
Well,
I think it
I
still
guess
works.
here's I like it as part of the MSQ because then they can't ignore it later.
Sure.
Right? And that's something we talked about earlier. And I think that's a valid point. And it always feels like, we talked about this before, like Binding Coil was such a huge part of ARR, but it's completely missable and not doable.
Off to the side,
and then Alexander, Heaven's Word. Oh my god, there's a time travel stuck in there. You can completely ignore it. So it's great that it's part of the MSQ because then you can't ignore it.
Sure.
But also now at the same time, like, what replaced it? What do we have instead of a Trials
Tataru?
series on the side?
Yeah.
Nothing that
Tataru
exciting that
and
comes to mind.
Tataru.
That's true. Tataru
Very-
in the dungeon.
The dungeon.
Okay, one
so
new quest for a side story does not replace
No.
Trials
No,
content.
There's
we're
two.
talking about the Criterion dungeon system too,
Yeah.
is what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
yes. The
sorry, I
Criterion
thought
dungeons,
yeah.
and then the
Yeah.
Tataru side quests,
Yeah.
and then
Side quests are a completely
So,
different team
let me-
from
no,
battle.
no,
Those
let me-
those
let
don't
me-
count.
Let me make a case for this. All
Okay.
right.
Mhm.
So, I'm not going to say that they put more effort into the trials, but let's assume that they put more effort into the actual construction of a trial, right?
Okay.
They want people to go and do that above any other content, right? So you put it in the MSQ, so you have to. And then
Sure.
stuff like Tataru is just walk through, get cool story, learn things about characters that you already like knew and maybe wanted to know more about. And some people don't care about that at all.
Sure.
That content is very super optional on the side. That's the kind of content you want on the side rather than something like the Void Quest.
Yeah, I just wish it didn't feel like they cut up the trial series and pasted it into the MSQ out of order.
Right. It
That's
feels
what it feels like
It
to me.
feels like we're getting less because of that.
You get the exposition after you fight them because
Yeah.
there's no time
Wait.
to do it,
What are we on now?
and that's weird.
Three.
Five?
What?
So we've got Zodiark, we've got Heidelin, we've
Yes.
got Bird Girl, and we've got the 2 Fiends. So we'll
Yes.
probably get at least 2 more trials.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One of which will probably be Golbesh.
Obviously, yeah.
For
Mhm.
sure,
Or some
for
proxy.
sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. I wouldn't necessarily argue that side quests are completely ineligible to be something like that is an equivalent of what we would get, because when you
Mhm.
think about the trial sets, there's two components to that majorly, right? There's the mechanical fights, and then there's the actual writing, the narrative,
Mhm.
the characters, all that kind of stuff that they have to do around that. And then of course there's a million other components that goes into it, but if I'm just looking at the content that we get
Mhm.
from those are the two big things. So it's almost as if we have just kind of like separated the fights to put them in the story and kind of bring them in that way. But I agree in that I don't feel like we get as supportive of a framework for each of these as individuals because of it, to the
Mhm.
point where we are, getting those little filler things after the fact. And I don't think I felt it as much in 6.2, but I definitely felt it with Cagnazzo and Ruby Conte in this one, because we spent so much time on the source with Zero that I really
Mhm.
felt like I was missing just a little bit of buffer up to them in the story. Although I wasn't like too devastated that it was a little bit
Sure.
shorter this go around, because
Mhm.
6.2 was really long,
Mhm.
But all of that to say, I do think that some of this other content that we've gotten does take some of those mechanical design teams and then also takes the writing teams and builds out additional stuff
Mhm.
around that. So in that regard, I mean, I've really enjoyed. I actually thought the Tataru quests this go around, which we'll talk about later, were amazing,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I really have liked as well the new content, like the variant dungeon. I thought was
Mhm.
so good. It was so cool, and it was
Mhm.
such a great idea. So in those regards, I don't feel shortchanged.
Mm.
But I do think that like I have maybe, and maybe you all, I don't know, let me know how you feel. I felt like even for having some of this new content, I have missed some of our additional repeatable content stuff. Like we don't get the extra dungeons, and we
Mhm.
now the
That's
trial series is kind of
yeah.
smushed in. So like even though we have this other stuff, but we'll see what happens with Heaven on High, or sorry, the new
Mhm.
Heaven on High, new palace and stuff like that. It feels like maybe some of those extra resources even went to the second ultimate that we're
Yeah.
about to get.
Mhm.
Sure.
So I feel like I haven't had as much just kind of instance content that I would want to be running,
Mhm.
but I don't know if that's just a
I
feeling or.
think part of it is Shadowbringer spoiled us because we had the amazing Wurlit quest line with the weapons,
Absolutely, yeah.
it was so damn good. But then also 6.3, that was the Warrior of Light fight.
Oh,
That
yeah.
that was like the patch for me.
Five?
Like
5.3.
Yeah, 5.3. Yeah, yeah.
5.3, yeah.
Mhm.
So and we had that same issue too once they dropped that second dungeon per patch, right? Where it's like, oh, this feels kind of and it still does.
Mhm.
I'm still feeling that I'm still missing that extra dungeon. And so you got to look at, okay, well, they changed it a little bit. What else are we getting now? And so far, like, variant dungeons are cool, but like I wish I had a really cool side trial thing, because we've had one every expansion up to this point and they've all been really good.
Mhm.
And now it's
You
just
know,
like four fiends, and it feels like, and I'll say it again, it feels like I don't know what 7.0 is going to be. It could be
Mhm.
void stuff, it could be completely out of left field, like Shadowbringers and going to the first was, but this still feels like they're just sandwiching in a little narrative arc, and I feel like we lost a trial series because of it.
Mhm.
I guess I'll be the dissenting opinion. Not sure.
No.
I I like them tied so closely into the MSQ. I feel very similarly to the Tataru thing. Like the information we're getting about them via their side quest line is something that I care about. I'm gonna go do. People who care about that information like me are also gonna go do it. Whereas players who just want to get to the EX trial don't want to sit through that.
It's
So
true, and they're
I
wrong, but
don't.
that's fine.
Yeah, no, I mean I agree. I think they're
Yeah.
totally wrong, but I don't know that that's necessarily a bad way to have handled it.
I just wish it
So
wasn't these four that
yeah,
they
no,
made this change for.
that's fair.
Mhm.
I really do like them, and that's part of the reason that I like that they're part of the MSQ.
Mhm.
They're you and I have been waiting for four fiends for a very long time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So I like that they're part of the MSQ. I don't feel shortchanged as far as them being organized this way. I appreciate, in fact, that it's not just another, and here's this side bunch of stuff you have to do for the trials this time. I like that they mix it up. We always talk about how we want them to mix it up, so I kind of
I
like
mean,
that.
that's right. Yeah.
Um, on the flip side of that, so like all of that said, I do find myself going, okay, what can I do in the game right now?
Mhm.
So, but that I don't know that would be any different were the trials separate from MSQ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still gonna hit that lull at some point, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think.
normally, and I don't know why I am now, but here we are.
I mean, it's like you were saying, right? It really is a damned if you do, damned if you don't when it
Mhm.
comes to trying new things and shaking up the formula. I think in this particular instance, we've just had that formula forever,
Mhm.
and so it's harder to get into whatever the new
You know,
norm is
Yeah.
for that.
It could also be I kind of feel annoyed when it's a separate thing. Like
Okay.
the Four Lords were
Mhm.
very cute. It was a neat storyline. Uh-oh.
No, I'm just excited because I was glad they came back with Tataru
Mhm.
stuff.
Yes, that
Yeah,
was very
that was
cool.
hysterical. Yeah.
Yes. So we'll segue into that afterwards. But like for the Four Lords, for example, I liked the storyline. It was cute, but for me, because it wasn't part of MSQ, parts of it seemed like a chore.
Yeah,
Mm.
but if they just make it like Burlet, it wouldn't. I
Yeah.
just like I'm
Yeah.
saying, they took the trial, they trimmed the fat, which is the flavor, and shoved it in the MSQ, and put a little bit of the fat at the end. That's just what I'm saying. I don't care if they try
I-
something new, but they
Yeah.
reduced
I
the
will-
size of it when they remixed it.
I will
Mhm.
And
say
that's
it's
the problem
so
I have.
interesting to me with all of these because like
Mhm.
I honestly think all these opinions are just right simultaneously. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I mean,
Yeah.
as whenever we share our opinions, there's no definitive, right? They are
Mhm.
opinions,
Yeah.
it's just our thoughts, of course, always. But
I like
I
when they're different. It's like, oh look, we're not
Yeah.
all in agreement. Perhaps we
Mhm.
are representing more
Yeah.
unity this way.
but I like all of these things because I think it's funny for me, Verlet as a quest chain, right? It packed such a punch by the end that I wasn't really expecting when I started it. And there are some incredibly memorable moments in those fights. I mean, I can't remember a trial that surprised me as much as Ruby Weapon when you have that
was
switch.
my favorite
Like,
thing for that whole patch was going in and getting that in roulette, and then you
Yes.
do the 1st
Mhm.
phase,
yes.
and then
It's
like
so
it dies
cool.
down, and like the new people are like, oh yeah, we did it. We're like, oh
No.
you
And
poor
yet-
child, just you
And
wait.
yet-
PTSD the fight.
I know. And yet, what's funny to me is that those boss fights, minus like that moment, and of course, some of the things that if I actually go through and I'm like, that was cool and this was neat and that was a nice insight, they are far less memorable to me overall. Like, I really don't care about those fights. I really didn't.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But the story was phenomenal.
Yes.
I totally agree with you in that for Lords, I love the little lore, the little lore that it adds to that region. I love that they tied into like it's such a common theme, particularly in a variety of East Asian media, but the mythology and idea of like, gosh, everything from objects to creatures at some point gaining sentience. It's just like a big thing. Like you have whether there are like spirits that exist in the world that, you know, kind of like fox spirits have their own lore. There are also in many of these, you know, ideas, the idea of like an entity that either through like rebirth achieves this kind of enlightened state, or that through longevity for whatever reason gains sentience and becomes an entity. And I really love that addition to the mythology and lore of you know, Doma, Hingashi, all of that region. But like you said, Zen, does it feel like it's something that's like a massive thing? Is it the whole reconciliation of Gaius's past? No, it's like this little ensemble of creatures on the side that doesn't really have much to do with anything, and it's fun and the fights are really cool and they have beautiful moments, but it always felt to me like there was so much more that could be done with that. And maybe they will, who knows? So like, right, all of these different trial series I think have their pros and cons. But one thing that I really love that you said that I wanted to circle back to with this is that I think that the trade-off here, right? So maybe if we had gotten the side quest version of Four Fiends, we would have had a much more robust focus on them as individuals and entities. And do I think that they could have segued this very, like in a very cool way where, you know, you get through the story and then you go to like that, you know, the void area, and then you get to explore the realms and stuff, or you get to go to the different, you know, areas and you face and encounter the Four Lords. They could have made this like a parallel story alongside the MSQ. But I mean, it also could have been its own entire totally removed thing. And so the trade-off, I think, for like maybe getting more of a robust examination of them as characters is the fact that they are featured in the main story. They are like any entity, any character, any featured enemy that's in the actual MSQ proper itself. I mean, like everybody has said, players will, no matter what, if they've gone through it, touch on those. And that importance, that weight, I think is maybe the trade-off for integrating them into this, so that like they are major figures now in the ongoing MSQ of 14.
Yeah, I
So-
think on that point, I think, right, and again, kind of coming off with the thought of like this just feels like an in between story, right, between 6.0 and 7.0 that they're just moving along through. Like,
it doesn't feel like that to me.
well, and that's fine. But I think to that point, like talking about how they kind of feel heavier, like in the MSQ. I think they would have felt heavier if they were each a trial. I feel like they feel, as a whole, lesser because 2 of them get downsized to dungeon bosses.
And I don't mind that because
I was going to ask. I was curious what people thought about that.
I really love 4. It is like 4 and 6 are my favorites. So like seeing the 2 of them downsized to something in a dungeon, I'm just like, haha, you got shit on again, suckers. It actually makes me more upset to see Diablos initially, and Diablos as an end boss in a dungeon. I was like, what? This Diablos, what are you doing?
Yeah. I think they're interesting where they are. And I think to counter in general, I actually think that this cycle of patches, so the 6.x series, has been probably throughput my favorite series of patches that we've had. I feel like although they're taking us to a place that we've long anticipated, it still has felt fresh and surprising and interesting in the way that they have interpreted it and how they've, kept in line with things they already established, but also how they've added to the lore of the Void, the characters. I do feel really deeply drawn into what's happening in a way that I have no doubt this will be relevant at some point. Now, whether or not the next expansion directly is taking us deep into the Void to reverse this, who knows, right? Like they might try to really surprise us with something else. But this doesn't just feel like some kind of toss out filler. To me, I felt much more like minus 5.3 and some of the stuff that happened there. I felt much more like the Shadowbringers patch cycle leading up into Endwalker was like filler that gave you the smallest of little crumb. Like, here's a little thing, but we're not going to reveal anything until
I don't know
Endwalker.
if I would say like small, maybe small filler, but like I it'll be impactful.
So like a bridge.
It'll be impactful to the narrative going forward. But yeah, it's very much like a
bridge.
Yeah, like
rather
a
than
a contained thing, and we haven't had that before because with all the expansions, they always.
I mean, wasn't Stormblood that?
Let me finish.
I'm just shitting on
Let me
Stormblood.
finish.
The entire
Right,
expansion.
all of the other expansions, right? The story didn't end with the 0.0 patch. It ended with the 0.3.
True.
And so what we would get is a kind of narratively 0.1 that would then build to like a crazy 6.3. But what we're getting now is this kind of just like I don't see any ramp right now. I just see a straight line going through whatever the story is, and then maybe 6.4, 6.5 it'll go up a little bit to whatever 7.0 is.
It could also be.
It's not ramping yet for me. It's just like, okay, 6.0 done. Here's this other story. We have these 4 fiends. Dungeon trial. We know because they did it that way, we're not going to spend a lot of time with them. And I think maybe subconsciously, my brain's just not getting invested as much. Maybe that's what it is.
That's what I was going to ask you. What is your like favorite tidbit of lore? Because for me personally, like Void stuff has always been like top 5 of my favorite stuff in the game, along with the gods. So I'm loving 6.x.
Well, yeah. I mean,
6.x is amazing for me.
For
But
me,
you, what's your favorite stuff? Yeah.
I mean, for me, Amarat, like always,
Sure.
every day.
I just,
Yeah.
I mean, what you're saying, it does have merit because we don't have a climax in 6.3 like we had one in 5.3.
Right. So we're going
I
through
mean, but
this
did you look at
story.
those gods though?
I mean, yeah, they're fine.
Fine.
No,
To me, the build
fine.
is leading us obvious. I mean,
Yeah.
it's much more perhaps a not trite story method because it's not. It's literally the stuff of almost all epic fantasy
Yep.
or even epic poem, right? Where you have some kind of structure. In this case, our narrative specific structure here, just like you could be like collect the 5 rings or go find 10 fantasy swords, or like the trope here is that they're fighting their way through these specific entities. So our culmination point would be Golbez, right? But I mean, we are, as we go through it, having things revealed about the state of the world, the nature of it, what we might, subvert. Even that part that you pointed out at the start, Fusion, the fact that he's at the end of this patch Which, by the way, Yoshi P, can we please
Mhm.
put the little tidbit end before? Can we put it before the last turn-in? Because I done turned my recording camera off. I was
Oh.
like,
They
oh,
always do that though.
well, but like I don't know what it was, but I usually think that maybe I'm just totally wrong. I don't know. I usually think that it happens at the end of the last major cutscene, and then you have some really dumb little turn-in where you go
No.
and he's like, "Cool, we'll see you next time," and you're like, "Bye," and then
No.
I don't know why I
Rook,
thought that
Rook,
this time.
I love you. You're a wonderful person. This is a you problem.
Okay, well, wow. I know I wasn't the only person it happened to, because several of my friends
sure.
were like, "Oh, whoops, I didn't think there was gonna be," so. But like I had to turn everything on in a rush again because I was like, "Oh my god, of course." So, I mean, yeah, like there's a lot there. The missing piece, or what was on,
Yeah.
what was in the moon, or is that empowering Golbez, or
Mhm.
is, like we don't know, who
Yeah.
is Golbez, because that's
So-
the other big thing.
Yeah, we're still in the rising action.
I think
yeah.
Golbez is just the 13th version of Tataru.
My god.
Why do you hate Satoru? Now, now that we've like thoroughly explored the end of the story, do we want to talk about the beginning?
Talk about the what?
The
What
beginning. The
what
beginning
Oh,
of
yes.
the story this time.
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
There was
Where
stuff,
does it
something
start?
happened.
There was a dungeon. We went to a
Yeah,
dungeon.
Lapis Manalis. Yep.
Yeah, the dungeon. Yeah.
Manalis is great in that I am really glad we have Reaper lore.
Mhm.
Can I just say?
what did
I
we
thought
get?
that
We
was
got a
super
outside of the
cool.
class.
No, we got the cool part. We were like, okay, we're gonna try and wait a minute. I just heard my sister,
Yeah.
Yes.
and I heard her
Dragon.
way out in the ass end of nowhere.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why we got there.
That was really cool. Yeah, I mean, like, it's obviously like we're gonna revisit places, so it was nice to see Garlemald. It was great to see the twins
Mhm.
again. The dungeon itself was neat from like a narrative point, right? It's where these
Mhm.
Reapers used to hang out before Garlemald's like, "Psh, we got Magitech. We don't need pissed off farmers anymore.
Even the name is a crazy reference, as per always.
Yeah. We got maybe.
Wait. What's the name? What is it?
Oh, Lapis Manalis is the stone that they use to cover the entrance to the underground in Rome. So, and
Oh.
who did it? The Lemures. The Reapers.
Yeah.
The same. Exactly one and the same.
Like
So-
the underworld, isn't it like literally the
Yeah, the
like,
underworld.
where like the dead live and things
All the
like
Yeah,
that.
bones,
capital
yeah.
U. And then they
Capital
also had
Underworld.
them. Yeah, and they had them in their cities too. So there was multiple of them, but there is one that is over the
Yeah.
actual underground, and then they had rituals with them in other places. So
Yeah.
it's like, to keep it contained, kind of like the Reaper. It just keeps going. They
Yeah.
just always do this.
Cool.
And then,
It's so
and then
awesome.
Well,
Uh-huh.
I wanted to say really fast. I loved that. I loved the fact that if they ever want to put Puppet Master in this game, they gave us a straight up lead into it.
that's what I was gonna
Because-
say. Yeah.
There's the mention about the puppet artisan who vanished and who knows where they went, and maybe their art will continue on. And so I thought that was interesting. The one thing, this is such a bizarre critique. It's so silly, and I realize that. But the one thing that was jarring for me in this patch was the oh, we need ceruleum? I don't know, fun like a bucket. Just
Yeah.
like put the
I-
ceruleum in a bucket. And I was like, you realize that for the entirety of the lore of this game, they've established ceruleum as being a ridiculously volatile substance that, if
Mhm.
handled and mishandled in the slightest way, is
Well, that's why you don't
immediately
pick.
combustive.
That's why you don't pick the bucket with holes.
No, like there's an entire pipeline
Yeah,
that
felt
literally
odd to
that
me.
whole facility is made to monitoring station Uterna G. It's made to
Mhm.
monitor the slightest fluctuations in pressure, temperature, anything as they pump the ceruleum out of the earth.
Can
because-
wood even hold ceruleum?
I mean, yeah, because like the literal difference is that like if something goes wrong in that pressure, it will cause explosions. It will cause like devastating
The
things.
spot where we pick up the ceruleum is, like 30 meters from fire. It's on fire.
Yeah, yeah.
I was dying. I was like, how you couldn't have even said that they have some specific containers on the like thing that are like pressure sensitive.
It's just
I
magnets or
will
something,
say
that's fine.
now that you brought that part up, I know we talked a little bit about this when we did the last patch, because you do the dungeon and then they have you walk around it.
Mm.
And they did it again. First and foremost, let me just say, Square, I love your environmental artists. They do a very good job. But we also have explore mode to do that. I could care less about walking back and forth multiple times through the fucking dungeon that I just did.
What did we discover last time, Fusion?
That you can use a mount.
Yes, you can.
And I
And you have
forgot.
little teleports. Yeah.
And it is annoying, and I hate it, and I don't like it.
They,
I'll
I mean,
be.
I feel like they cut it down because in the previous
They
one,
did.
we
It
were running
was
on a-
worse before, but it still is not good.
I'm not. I wasn't bothered by it.
Me neither. I actually like it because one of my bigger complaints with 14 in general has been, it's not a complaint. I don't know. It's not really a complaint. It's just that many other games that I play, even in patch content, you may get some equivalent of a new map to explore, a new zone, an extension of a region, an expansion. And in 14, we get we get a sense of that
they're making more
sometimes.
use out of the assets they spent resources to create. And I
Yes.
get that, but it's boring.
I mean, it
Like-
depends.
Like so the whole idea is like, okay, we need to find a bucket to put ceruleum, which we already talked about that. That's a whole thing. But then there's different types of buckets, right? And obviously like there's the one that works, but you get like the same message for like all these other different buckets that have different descriptors of what they're actually called. And it's like, oh, this looks like a bit. It's like, okay, they couldn't have even made like a different message for it. Like, I don't know.
I think they can use them better. I
Yes.
almost feel
Yeah.
like why put the lore entries in the dungeons at this point? Like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna have this,
Mhm.
put all the lore entries and additional discoverable ones. Have your companions. They do usually have unique dialogue as you go through where they respond to various things, which I like. But like, let there be little vignettes. Let there be like a little moment. Let you explore different little things, interact, overturn stuff that you normally wouldn't be able to in the
Mhm.
dungeon, which I think are kind of building towards. But I do agree with your observation that I don't think they're using it to its best effect. I was disappointed in the one where you could go back through Troya
Mhm.
because I was talking to every single
Yep.
void set
Mhm.
and like they have unique dialogue like once, but then when you have to go back and forth they stop having that. And
Yep.
I was like, oh, I would have loved it
And
if
for
they,
me,
had
Troya
extra.
was a more interesting setting. This is a cave
Sure.
with blue stuff on fire. Like it
Probably why it was shorter too.
Yeah, it was much
yeah.
shorter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's they're trying something new, right? I'll critique it. I won't fault them for it, right? I
Sure.
won't say this is the worst thing ever and they should never have done this. It needs to be better.
Black and
Yeah.
TV in chat points out like if they're gonna put the lore entries in, why not put them in the part where you're walking around
Yeah.
freely?
Yeah,
personally-
somebody
That's
somebody
exactly
said
what we
that
said.
That's
the
what I said.
pickups aren't even in that other
Yeah.
once you get past
I-
it, which is
I agree. I think that's a good idea. I
Wild.
personally, when I ran through, I even ran through with at least 2 of my friends, and I still didn't want to stop. I didn't want to slow the dungeon down to read the stuff. So like,
Yeah.
we went through the whole dungeon, we finished, and I went back to the beginning to read the stuff by myself.
Yeah.
It would be great if you had like a slow free time, picking up ceruleum in a barrel to read those messages by yourself.
Yeah. I would love as well if they made it so that now our new unending codex that we got
Mhm. The codex,
also
yeah.
had a tab in it for like exploratory lore where
Mhm.
those would just log in there and you could just like read them because otherwise I find that the codex is one really obtuse to find. I literally had to look up on Google this patch how to find it again because I was like digging around going like, oh yeah, I haven't checked
it
the
is in a
codex.
really
Where is it?
weird menu.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like in collections under something else
the
under
duty
like, it's-
collections, I think. It's like why?
Yeah, it's so weird. So I mean, I would rather they just like expand that as well, so that if you did spend the time and you went through, you could get that. I like that it gives us a sense of going different places and getting some kind of new map or backdrop or setting. I think it's clever to do that, but I think like everybody's saying, they can use it a little more robustly. Like they can use it in a way that it really does. It's not just like a run back and forth and do a questionable thing with a highly volatile substance, but instead that it is like an actual lore thing, that there might be some story beats that are more robustly set there.
like-
yeah.
I think for me, like if you want me to like run back to like the beginning or something of the dungeon, fine. But if I have to go one way and then go back the other way, that's where it starts to get dumb for me. Like, why am I doing all this? And granted, if I wasn't in that dungeon, I'd probably be running back and forth somewhere else too. But the fact that I just spent all this time in this dungeon and now you want me to go back and forth, that feels weird to me. And I feel like they need to do something to make that better. And also
I
keep
think it's
the
cool.
pickups while you're doing that. But
I think
but
it's
again,
cool that we get to see-
everybody's gonna have a different opinion on it, and that's fine.
That's true. I think it's
Also,
cool that
as-
we got to see Varshawn go blank face and become dragon again in the middle of things. That was neat.
Yes, I thought that
Little
was
bit-
really cool too.
Yeah, a little bit of how does this work as far as the homunculus body
Yeah.
goes. It was kind of neat.
Mhm.
It was cool that like it was weird initially to be like, why is his sister there? And then it was cool that there was like, that was just a distraction, you dum dums.
Mhm.
Yes, yeah, I figured it had to be something. But I wonder if they even know the true power of Dragon's eyes. Like, this is a big thing for me because they gave us this eye, and I was like, it's got to be fake. It has to be cursed. They did something to it. It's messed up. It's going to, like, but because the dragons, as far as we know, only made it to the source. As far as I know, unless anybody can think of anything else to contradict me from anything that we know in lore, the dragons, as such, made it to the source, but none of the other reflections. So the dragons, as we know them, are kind of foreign entities to many of the other realms and worlds. So I couldn't help
that's
but
true.
wonder. I
Mm.
think so too, right? I couldn't
Yeah.
help but wonder if Ajdaya either did something to convince them that, like, oh no, don't cut out my eye. No, like if they were thinking about like cutting off her foot or her tail or like whatever it was to try and do that, or if it was something about their actual ethereal sight and analysis that might have indicated
think
like eyes and stuff.
Maybe
That
But
seems more likely.
Golbez has the echo and was like,
I mean,
oh,
I
you remember
think
that
Also
time where
possible.
your sister's eyes got eaten?
I mean
I'll
the
steal your eye
possible.
now.
the
This
entire
is how Golbez sounds.
yeah the entire like hierarchy and like state of living in the void is based on consumption of aether. So like that doesn't surprise me. Like that's ultimately what it is the eyes just have a crap ton of aether, and so that they
But-
like pick that out is like, yeah, that makes sense
I
to
could
me.
see them picking it out and that they would use it as that because it would be like a beacon, right? And it would draw them, and especially if they know Zero is with them, in some way, shape, or form. So like, yeah, I could see that, but we don't totally know. Like in the patch, they mentioned that like her spirit supposedly is not in the eye, but we've also seen with Nidhogg's eye that whether that was his rage, whether that was right, like all these things, he manifests through that eye. He like has an awareness of that eye. He corrupts Estinian through that eye. So I couldn't help but
That's
wonder
also
if
because
this
he's
is
covered in blood, though.
But that
Well, yeah.
Sure.
that eye also still had the aether with it. It hadn't.
Residual aether.
It
Yeah.
didn't have,
Yes.
they didn't tap that battery out, right? Whereas
But
the
we
eye,
don't-
they used it to open the gate, and so it was, they need to recharge
True.
it.
But we don't know how like all of that works. So I can't help but wonder if that's a bit of a little
Sure.
thing that might be like as it recharges. I mean, we don't know how that works exactly with it independent of.
Well,
but
and
considering that-
how does it work in the void? I mean, is it like Superman, where if he doesn't have Earth's sun, he's not going to have that like, who knows, right? Like, I mean, they could do all sorts of stuff with it.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'd love more Ajdaya. She's cool. I love all the dragons. I've seen people theorizing like, will all the dragons get like a cool form that's like a humanoid form so that they can go around on adventures? And I was like, I hope so.
Sure. We'll just we'll take that
mean,
back
at
from
least
what
she
you
will,
know.
right?
So now we have to ask the question, Brooke. Ithlodius, Emetzelk,
Oh my God.
Venat, humanoid
I
dragons.
told you, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I can't. I love all my children equally.
We're just gonna
Except
get
for
one of
Xenos.
those
I don't care for him.
we're just gonna get one of those tier lists one of these days, and we're just gonna make you sit down. We'll be here for 10 hours.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
goodness.
We'll do it.
But-
I mean,
but-
look, I would totally do a tier list cast with all of you. It'd be hilarious.
Mhm.
I would love it.
Look, we'll get all the dragons, the humanoid
Put it in the
forms,
list.
Yeah.
and then we're gonna get a new expansion called Wyvern Flight, where you ride dragon. And
I'm fine with that.
yeah,
I mean, as it is, if we go to Maricidia, it's basically going to be
it's basically
that.
gonna be that.
And
Yeah.
I
am
cannot wait for
living
Maricidia.
for
Just to
it.
emphasize too,
So-
we're riding the dragons in their dragon form, in case there's
Yes.
any confusion. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, look, I'll be real. I'm not weak. I'm not a coward. So it doesn't matter to me if they have a humanoid form or not. I still love them. So I'm just saying that. All right, cool. Did we cover all the story? I feel like we covered all the story.
We covered the main story. I mean, there's
Yeah.
other narratives too, right? Like we talked a little bit for a half second
Yeah,
on
the Tataru.
Tataru.
Mhm.
Just like the other ones, it's a really
Sky
good
Pirates.
use. Not in this one.
No, not
That's
in
the
this
other
one.
one.
Not Sky Pirates. That was
Mhm.
6.2.
This one is bunny
Still.
rabbits.
Still, I'm just saying, like, the Sky Pirates got brought back for the previous one,
They did.
which is good because they do void stuff too.
Yeah.
Mm.
I loved Tataru's quest this time around. I didn't care as much about the pirates.
Mm.
I feel like some people
How?
I'm sorry. I know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know some people, the pirates probably were like their absolute jam, and I am really glad they made it back. But I love those cute little funky animals. I love them. They're so funny.
Suzaka is hilarious. You're right. She is
Mhm.
just and the
Mhm.
freaking like when he was like, "Here is this lady, and she's so beautiful, and she's my mom because Tenzin and Suzaku totally had a thing, and they totally made me. I'm their baby."
All
and she's
the
like,
all the four
"Actually,
lords are like,
Wait, hold on.
that's
we're gonna
fine.
kill
Hold
him,
on, let me
right?
kill this
And then
one."
they're like, no, but like Tenzin, he's all right. He's not a bad guy.
I know. Suzaku
I like
tucks.
this version. Go
I
ahead, it's
like
fine.
this fanfic. This is fine.
Yeah, she tucks away the fanfic that she herself has written, her lamentation fanfic, where she's like, "If only we'd been married and had children."
I think it's
I
it's
loved it.
hysterical. Yeah.
I think they're adorable. I think they're charming. I also really love the parallels between Tenzin and ourselves. Like, there's been a lot of interesting discussion about, was Tenzin a shard before us, or was he just a warrior
Could've
of
been.
light?
Mhm.
Was Tenzin, because the thematic parallels are really intense, and they mention a lot of times as well that like the four lords themselves sense something about us that reminds them distinctly of Tenzin. And I don't know what the mystery is, but I loved seeing them again.
Yeah.
And somebody very wisely advised me. So if you haven't done this yet, a little hint to all of you: when you get to the point where you have to dress up to pretend to be a true descendant of Tenzin, actually like dress up for it. Like put on a whole. I went and I put on the 11 crossover armor that's like the Far
The
Eastern.
Phoenixy type thing, yeah.
Yes, I loved it.
Rojas, yeah.
Because Fusion was watching live while I did it live, and
I was
put
like,
it on.
that is appropriate, Garm. Yes.
So good. And then when you actually get those scenes where you're framed between the four lords and it's so dramatic in the music, it is impeccable. It's so fun, and it's like I took 50 screenshots. And like,
I
was
will
really
say
good.
I loved it. I think it's, I mean, like, who doesn't love some humor, right? Like it was a little bit of Hildebrand before we get the Hildebrand quest, right? In that kind of sense. But it's also another great way where they go back and revisit characters that maybe didn't have that big, like, oh, there it's them in Endwalker, right? Like that's kind of what these quests are doing. I will say though, and I've said this since Four Lords was introduced, they had that screenshot of like Tenzin, right, where he's got that armor on. Now we have the model of that armor. Give me that armor. That is the 11 Samurai AF. I
goodness.
want that armor.
Give it to me.
You have the models in game. Give it to me.
Next outfit contest, Fusion. Get on it.
Next costume contest, I'm just gonna send them a screenshot from the Four Lords quest. Be like,
Do it.
this.
That
Do it.
right there.
This one. You already have the model. Done.
Meanwhile, I'm still waiting for that 1.0 cinematic armor.
Yeah.
It gave me hope as well that we might revisit them as
I
characters.
love
Yeah.
that these freaking ancient beings are just so goofy. It's so good.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they got past their bitchy angry phase and they're like, you know what? I'm old. I'll do whatever I want. This is fun now.
I mean,
I love it.
that's like the whole like overall narrative now after 6.0. It's like, just live life, learn to feel emotions, learn to just be a goof.
Well, I love it because
Let
with
loose.
them, it was almost the reverse in that they had too many emotion. They
Mhm.
had too big a feeling. And so we had to help them siphon that feeling off a bit. And like now we get to see a side of them that's not rageful, it's not sorrowful, it's not antagonistic, it's not a hater of board games. And instead, it is
It's that friendly
them.
cosplayer side.
Well, yeah, I mean,
that's
think
not a thing.
I think it's the part of them that the friends, like Tenzin's friends. And I loved that because they are silly, but they have their personalities. And of course, they don't understand the world of men. So, like, they're doing all this ridiculous stuff. And it's just so funny. But, like, in a way that just makes sense. And in a way in which, like, you can sense the camaraderie between them and, like, how Tenzin was a vehicle for them to the mortal realm. And I loved that. And the only misstep of this quest that I think Square Enix should fix is that when you have them accompanying you and you get a little piece of dialogue where I think it's Suzaku who says, I really love, is it Dango? Or she's like, I really love Dango, and I heard about this stall here that sells, it was Mochi or Dango, just like, and it sells
It was
and
Dongo, yeah.
well, yeah, like one of our friends was telling us about it, and like I really want to go there someday. I walked her to the booth that sells Dango, and you cannot buy her Dango. I was so mad because you talked to the vendor there, and she's like, "Do you want some Dango? Are you hungry?" And like you just like you can't do anything else with her, you know. But it would have
It
been
would
so
have been
cute.
perfect just to put that circle right there, and it pops
that
up, and you just
recipe-
talk. Yep.
That recipe's in the cookbook. Just make it for her in spirit. Make yourself a
Just
little
make the Dongo
sunshine.
and then just slam it into your monitor and just be like, eat
There
the
you go.
Dongo.
Yeah.
I think that's how that
Um,
works.
What was I gonna say? My brain's gone. Where did it go? I don't know. Dripped right out my hair.
Okay. So yeah, we had that great quest. I thought they were really good. And then we had, of course, the storyline from the 24-man Alliance raid.
Yes, 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 yes. I'll let somebody else start because I've already.
No, I think you
I
have to
was,
start. You spoke first.
No, Zen, you go.
Okay.
You go.
All right.
I want to hear what you have to say. I'm gonna compose
I thought
myself.
it was cool that they started with Nofka. I'm not a super big Gridania fan, but I've always thought that Nofka is pretty cool goddess. I like the dynamics between her and several of the other gods, specifically Halone.
They like totally love each other, right? Like we can all agree that they're like
They're
them is right.
rivals.
Yeah.
Wink, wink, wonk.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, I thought it was interesting that they started with her. That's not where I thought it was going. I thought
Really?
it was super. Yeah, I don't know.
I totally got that after they showed the intro for the during the last live letter. When you enter it and it's like fields of grain, I'm like, oh, so we'll fight Nokfika first.
Well, I didn't really think of it in that context.
Okay.
I don't know. I just didn't think that they would start the story with her for whatever reason.
Well,
mostly-
they set us up because the first one we ended with Naldfall, so our brains were like, oh, we'll end all of them with city-state people, and then
Yeah.
Ishgard's like, but
Correct.
I'm a fourth, so now it's like,
Yeah.
okay, let's
Yes. And I thought it was cool that we ended up actually quote unquote interacting. It was technically with like almost all of them, but it was like the 5 in the dungeon this time.
Yeah.
Again, I like when they subvert expectations, even if it's just like, oh, it's not just another 4. Here's a bunch of them this time. Cool.
Yeah, they had to mix it up so that the final encounter for the last tier would be surprising, and I get that and I appreciate that.
Yes, I enjoy Grahatia's ridiculous backpack and how it makes him
Yep.
walk like a dum dum.
And
It's
you know
fun.
we're gonna get to this, but like shout out to the animation team for this patch. Like I see the backpack, it's like moving around. I'm like somebody spent like days or weeks on this backpack. Like that's cool.
I
Yeah.
like
And-
that. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say one of the things that was also cool, which we'll go into our presentation, I guess, polish discussion. But not only that, but they have persistent objects. So when he puts the backpack down in cutscenes,
Yep.
it's on the ground in the zone.
Mhm.
When Zero is bedridden, her hat and her glaive are always at the bedside next to her. Just like little details and little animation details, all the characters like that I thought were so good this time around.
It shows that they care. Another sort of silly detail that I really like from the first raid and that I enjoy that they are continuing is that the voices of some of the scions are also the voices of the gods. I don't know if there's any like an underlying connection. Probably not. They probably just were like, we know you can do a good job. Also voice this god, please. But it was neat. It's neat to see who they are equating them with, I guess.
Algina, do you have any thoughts on this one? I realized I haven't heard you talk a whole bunch recently.
It's
in the
good.
last 5 minutes.
No,
Good?
it's good. That's how I feel about the story. Like, I love the gods too, and I just want to know what's happening. I'm having fun because it's great. It's awesome. Like, it's beautiful. We get to see Nofika. We get to experience how the gods actually are, because those are the real ones. There they are. No more like, how do they interact? Well, we've seen it, and that's awesome. I just want to know more. Like, I need
like-
more.
I like how they are talking about how the gods have changed over time just because of
Mhm.
people's perceptions of them, and
Yeah.
that's just backing up
Yeah.
not only
Really
the
awesome
dynamis
lore.
thing, but
Yeah.
the like previous theories that the gods were just made by people.
Mhm.
I'm thinking that's probably not the case, but formed by people, absolutely. We're getting that
Sure.
confirmation, and we learned that there is another watcher.
A
Well, we
something.
learned there's some kind of overseer of the gods,
Yeah.
right?
13th.
Mhm.
It's the dude on the moon. This is a dude on the moon.
Well, that's
I
what
don't
they
know.
say, but do we know that for
It-
sure? No.
Yeah,
Even the characters like have
I mean,
theories about that, though.
yeah, they jump to that
However-
conclusion, but maybe that's that's just a false bread trail, right?
It could be, but if because the gods are aware of Heidelin's existence, if they are her convocation, as we have assumed for many, many years, but we're going, there's not enough of them. If we add Guy on the moon, there are, and we know that she put him on the moon also. So
Yeah.
it kind of ties the whole thing
I mean,
up
it
together.
makes sense.
But
Here's
if you go and you talk to him, he doesn't say shit about the 24
yeah, of course
man.
he doesn't. Yeah,
That feels
Yeah.
like a missed opportunity.
but to me, from this patch, it makes me think. And here's my tinfoil hat theory. I don't have a tinfoil hat. Presence at Silver Tier Lake is something to continuously summon these 12 from the thoughts and feeling of people right now at all times. Because primals get summoned, they don't change as long as they're out. Maybe the presence at Silver Tier Lake is some sort of mechanism to do that. That'd be awesome.
Maybe.
I just
Because-
want to
well, hold
say,
on.
That'd be interesting.
There is a piece that is really important that we haven't discussed yet, which is the Easter egg that was discovered.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody knows about this one. So there is before the Althic Nymea fight,
Mhm.
there was a behemoth, and during their
this,
conversation, there is a piece of dialogue where she says something like, forgive my brother, he something something something, he worries, or he, like, she says this very specific line.
Mhm.
And it has since been discovered that if you've done the side quests in Elpis, the two characters that are canonically related there, if you do those side quests, not only were they responsible for creating and summoning Behemoth, but they're also canonically siblings. And she literally says that line verbatim to him
Yeah, that's
in the
what I mean.
quest. Yeah,
They're summoned of those people. They're
Yeah.
like the people were templates, is what I'm saying.
which is
Yeah.
interesting because, I mean, yes, were they manifested? I have such mixed feelings because I love the story of this raid. Like, I have wanted to know about the 12. I think, like, I love it. I'm not actually disappointed in it, like, because it's been so good and the fights have been phenomenal. And I mean, everything has just come together in such an incredible way. And I love the music and I love the way they've realized all these fights. And I love the narrative and the characters and everything that we've had revealed about this. Was I maybe hoping for it being something different than what it seems like it's confirmed to be, which is just Heidelin's convocation? Yes, I kind of was. I mean, there's still plenty ahead, right? And there very well could be MacGuffins in this. Like, this very well could not actually be what we think. But given the fact that we've at least seen Elpis researchers that we would assume, like you were saying, are either they gave themselves up to become these, like to become the heart of them, like we kind of saw with Zodiac, or they originally were their like guardian forms and like their guardian force forms, and then because they became the focus of attention and worship of peoples as they presumably put together the worlds again after the Sundering and made sure that life could exist. But then that also creates really interesting questions of, did they do this for all the shards? Or like, the only presence that we've seen with these deities specifically is on the source. So did they only tend the source and then it was coincidence that the other shards were fine? Like, there's a lot of questions still that we don't totally know. But I was kind of
also
hoping
be why all the shards are different.
Yes, but I was kind of hoping that, I mean, you all know my tinfoil hat theory is that somehow this all related to Azem, because like we have Azema, we have Oshan, whose themes are very similar, and that maybe the thing Azem was doing during the Sundering, because I think we all like to assume that they weren't just like, worlds fall apart, all right, bye, and then just
No,
like
it's fine. He sent a familiar to take care of it. He was busy playing Doman Mahjong.
So I kind of hoped that maybe Azem had something to do with this, because there's already been so much importance put on Heidelin. And I love her,
Mhm.
and she's amazing, and Vanat is incredible, and oh my gosh, I just adore her. But I also really love her ambiguity, right? Because she did make this choice, and she even acknowledges in the story that, like, this was morally gray, what I
Mhm.
did. And I think that by having this failsafe system, it's perfectly in line with her character. She was brilliant. She was a genius. She was a prodigy in so many ways. She was obviously long lived. So, like, to have this kind of plan is not out of character for her.
Mhm.
But I do think in some way it makes that a little bit less morally gray in in that, like, this wasn't just her acting independently to do what she thought was best. She had like a whole fail safe. She worked with a whole bunch of people. They enacted this. There's still a gray area in it for sure. And obviously the ancients suffered. Them as they as a people, the individual lives that were shattered, sundered, and in many ways snuffed out, like, that is still something that I think is ambiguous. But I was
Mhm.
kind of hoping that maybe we would get something revealed with the 12 that either tied to a Zem, because we still have such a huge question mark in those
Mhm.
regards. So I don't know. Is the Watcher for sure the 13th? It would make sense. Is it
Mhm.
possible that, like, maybe part of the reason why we as a Zem just have never gotten our memories back, our own individual memories, is because we're too sundered, or because of whatever, or because we went through,
Mhm.
like, there's a million things you could say, but, like, was a Zem part of this in some way? I don't know. It's interesting. Like, could there be more answers to that? Sure, but it kind of seems like they're leading
It would
to a
Mhm.
culmination.
it would be super fun this whole time. We're like, oh, it's Derek. Oh, it's the monkey. They're Oshan, and it is just us.
Mhm.
That guy's just a random guy. They were like, hey, you, go get our friend. Thank you. So in chat, side note here, Grand Nagus asked a very cool question, I thought.
Mm.
Why is
Yeah.
Midgar Sommer protecting the spot where you can go and see the 12?
Yeah.
Midgar Sommer, who basically made some deals with Heidelin to hang out.
Well, and
on
I was gonna say
Yeah.
like 20 minutes ago, when Aldino brought up the presence at Silver
Presence,
Tier,
Mhm.
I honestly had forgotten all about that. Like, that's
Yeah.
totally a thing we need to
Mhm.
address.
And
Yeah.
this could do it. Like, how are they still there? Where did they come from? Why is this big machinery here? It's machinery.
Mhm.
I mean, it
Yeah.
has, divine energy in some way, but it's machinery. We know it was made somehow. So it's like maybe this was part of the failsafe from Azem or from Heidelin, or maybe Heidelin, said, hey, do something. And Azem went, best thing I know how to do is inspire people. Well, I'll make gods that inspire them out of the people that I know. Like,
Yeah.
it would make a lot of sense.
He do be a
Mhm.
bard, kind of, though.
Hmm.
Yeah. One
Um,
thing that I think,
Mhm.
my current working theory, is that the monkey is literally just a monkey.
Yep.
because
they want to throw us off.
I think Derek is actually Oshan. I mean, obviously he's so sus, and you see him talking to people saying all this stuff,
They were
Mhm.
they were
But-
pretty heavy-handed with like the narrative of this
Yeah.
tier,
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought.
Hmm.
But, like, they talk about the fact that Oshan was different from the rest, and that he himself was made to walk the realm of men. And that, like, whereas the other gods would
Mhm.
become these godlike entities, and they would be ruling over these very specific things, that he himself was meant to be a lifeline to the people. And one thing I did actually really like about this is that I do think that it reframes Azem's role in a way that's really cool. Because when you think about the ancient world, I mean, I always, at least for me in my head, I don't know if anybody else out there felt this way. I was always like, oh, like, everybody else gets to be in charge of really cool stuff, and then Azem's like, I'll go take polls, see you guys, and, like, but when you think about it, I mean, the convocation was in many ways as to gods to the regular ancients. I mean,
true.
their power, their
Mm.
abilities, the offices that they reigned over. Who actually knows what it is to be the people? Who knows what it is to walk the earth? Who knows what it is to suffer, to celebrate, to, struggle, to all these things that, I mean, the people, I think, of the great pinnacle of ancient civilization, those who were at the literal peak of it,
Mhm.
power, prestige, privilege, administration, they themselves don't know in that intimate way. And so I liked this. And my thought is that Oshan was given a human form because of it. And
Mhm.
that he himself was kind of exiled to wander. And Derek talks all the time about wandering alone. And I think he
Mhm.
probably didn't take servants as a result.
Mhm.
And so while the monkey is thematically appropriate, I mean, he keeps insisting to this monkey, like, you were a baby monkey, I found you and I healed you. Go away. And the monkey's like,
Mhm.
oh,
No.
Yeah.
No,
so, yeah.
I think moving back to the whole the Aether thing and us changing the form of the gods. My working theory is that if we'd seen these gods at their conception, they would look like the Watcher. We changed them to look like what they do now. And like Rook has been saying, we probably changed Oshan to be this Derek dude wandering around.
Yeah.
How about that God's goal thing? Because they're hinting heavily at us that they have a goal. Will this person be able to help us reach our goal? And I think it's one of two things. The obvious one being restoring Oshan to them. Secondary one, as we know from all of the like ghosts of ancients that were on the moon, they just wanted to go die. Maybe the gods just want to
and
go.
we had that
Their watch
too.
is over.
We've
powerful
had that
enough now.
with the void.
That's
Sense,
why they're
with the
testing
four
it.
fiends too. They just want their mortality
It makes me
back.
cry. It makes me cry. They're like, can you help us die? Thank you.
I hope it's not that, because that's already something that they've used in the MSQ, right? And so,
But it makes sense if that's who they are.
Yeah, but like it's also like we're already using this thing here. Why would you double down? And I don't know. Like I want them to do something different. But I feel like the fact that it's so heavy-handed in this tier, it's like, oh, something's going to happen with Derek. Oh, it's probably the Watcher. Like I hope they're setting us up to do something different.
You want
than what we're
this
expecting.
all to be red herrings? You want them to fake us out? I always love when they fake us out. That's my favorite.
This time, yes. I wasn't crazy when they did it with Endwalker because it was a 10-year arc, and then in the 11th hour, they're like, little bird girl. But here, I think I hope they do something a little different.
Yeah,
But-
I hope so too. I mean, there are so many illusions with them where they keep ominously saying like, and we'll probably never see this again.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I feel like they're going that route of, yes, like you were saying, our watch is over. We don't want to just become an indefinite, iteration further and further and further from ourselves, from who we once were. And we love the people,
It's so
but the
sad.
people have their own future. Yeah, and it's all very interesting. I, in some way, truly hope they don't go that route because, I don't know, to have just opened the door to actually knowing that like these gods are legit real.
Yeah.
And like, whereas for so long none of us knew if it was going to be like, I don't know, Elder Scrolls kind of thing where you've got, the what are they? Aedra, who supposedly like let themselves become consumed to become the forces of the world, and now
Yeah.
only the Daedra exist.
Yeah.
And so the gods they worship, who knows if they're even real? Probably not. Maybe they were.
There's also that idea, you think of we go back to like the presence at Silver Tier, we go back to the Primal Explosion, and the idea of like you can just summon stuff if you have a bunch of Aether and prayer. So like, I mean that's the 12. Like, and they talked about how they
Not quite.
I mean, it's close enough that they could tie that together, right?
They could, if
But we've
I
also seen that
I think too.
in the end of 1.0.
Yeah, I mean, but we
work.
also, yeah, that's a whole other thing. Like it's, I think there needs to be. I'm losing my train of thought.
Sorry.
Shoot. Like Dalamud, right? Like they willed Dalamud into
Speaking of.
Dalamud the god pet, not like Dalamud the actual moon,
Yeah.
right? So like the idea that like there was just a bunch of Aether and maybe what Vanad did is just like, you're my buds. Your essences are now part of the flow, right? And then because people are like, we need things to worship, that they just created the 12. Who knows? Who knows what we'll get? But
she needed her own unsundered.
Before I do want to mention something else though, but that starts to get into gameplay. Do we have any more story stuff that we want to cover here?
All I
I
wanna
want to
say is-
mention, just relevant to what you said about Dalamud
Yeah.
last time. This is not a I was right, but it is.
I want to get back into that, but I think that's when we're going to start to get into gameplay. So I want to.
I don't think so. Just that
No?
Dalamud wasn't originally red.
That's what I was going to get to.
1.0.
Oh.
Oh, okay, never mind.
I want to say that I did Dalamud as mount. Thank you very much, Square
it
Enix.
was red. It was just further away. That's fine.
No.
Yeah.
Agree to disagree. Doesn't matter.
Okay. What was that, Rook? Sorry.
She
What
wants to
did you
have a puppy.
I want Dalamud as a mount.
That's fair. That's fair.
He's
Mog
the cutest,
Station.
sweetest good boy.
That's totally like a $30 Mog Station item right there.
I'll say it.
Totally.
I
Yeah.
mean, I just hope they put it into the raids because they
Where's-
put mounts and extra gear
Yeah.
sets and all kinds of stuff into Nier. So,
Where's my?
and I
Where's
guess
my?
Gold Saucer.
I want my ice dragoon sculpture. Where's that square?
Oh my gosh, I didn't even say Helena is the most beautiful person I've ever seen in my whole life, and I want to kiss her, and she can suck on me. Oh my gosh, she's so good. I'm sorry, I actually withheld from
We've
saying
been
that.
talking about the raid
I know.
for like half an hour.
I made myself not lead with it, and then I got so into the story discussion that I forgot about it, which, so sorry, Helena, that's my bad, and I will do some penance, I promise you, but my God, is she...
It's not penance if you enjoy it, though.
Yeah.
Do some penance, winky winky.
Mhm.
Yeah, there you go.
And no, she's so good. She's so good. I love Nothika's fight too. I mean, all of it. The way that they realize the characters and through the unique mechanics, which we'll get into now without mechanical discussion and stuff. So good.
Segue!
Segue.
Yeah, I love the mechanics of this fight.
I do have a question before we move into mechanics, though. Rook and I have decided who we're cosplaying at FanFest. Which of the gods are you two gonna cosplay at FanFest?
I have not dressed up in a costume for many a year, and I
That's
don't
fine.
think that I will.
Now is the perfect time to start.
I would give anything to do it. I don't know if I'm gonna actually be able to make it
I
happen.
totally
know-
understand.
do you
That's
know
a difficult,
how-
that's a difficult
Do
costume.
you know how hot it's gonna be in Vegas in July, and you want me to wear a costume?
I don't care about the temperature. I will do it. My biggest thing is cost because that would be very expensive with that
difficult.
build.
Yep.
Mhm.
Very hard. I want to so bad though.
We should just do casual gods.
There you go.
I mean, I'm down for that. I think
Like,
we can
you
probably
take
pull that off.
Card-
You take the
cardboard
gods and turn them
mask.
into the ancient form. Just do the gods from the neck up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just get the wig and then
With
the makeup.
convocation robes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You already have
And
one.
the helmet. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can wear Helene's helmet.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry, mechanics.
Anyway, so sorry. Yeah, mechanical discussion. We turned that segue into a loop around back into a segue.
Woo!
Woo. Yeah, no, I like the mechanics of this dungeon. Nofika was pretty simple. The fight with Althik and Nimia. I got it. Simple but cool. Helone, I think I enjoyed the most. Just keeping track
Because it was just so cool. Just
Well,
to
I mean,
look at it, all the stuff that's
it was
happening.
it was cool. It
was
felt
also
like it felt
cold, yeah.
like there was a lot going on, but like after like you do it once, like it felt good. Like you're just like, oh, okay, stand, in, out, left, right. Like it felt good having that kind of repetition. Minfina was okay. I think as a final boss,
Yeah, I thought there'd be another phase. I actually love her fight. I love the moves. I love Dalamud. I love the music. The arena is so fantastic. But I mean, gosh, Naldal had like 3 distinct phases, and I felt like Menfina is just kind of it was just that like one thing, and then Dalamud joins her, and then it just kind of loops, and that's it.
Naldfall had some pretty cool like oh shit moments, and Minfina was just like, I have a dog. And that was it.
If you're
and
if
it
you're
wasn't
bad at
even
angles-
red.
Yeah.
Dalamud wasn't even red. That drives me nuts that it wasn't red. If we willed that thing into existence, it would be red.
Sinidra is dying. I mean, Zen, I've got to be real with you. I don't think it was originally red.
Scroll
I
up in our
think
chat.
I think it turned red in the like when it activated, when it started to descend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and the
that's what I
and the
think it
and the
turned
thoughts
red.
and prayers
'Cause
of
it got
people
closer.
can change the currently existing gods. So in recent years, Dalamud should have turned red.
I
Well,
will
we're ready
agree
to
with
let
that.
go of that trauma.
I will-
That's
yeah.
why.
I'll agree with that stipulation.
Dalamud should be
if
red.
you will.
Like you go into the dungeon, you get to Helone's battlefield, you look up, what do you see?
It's
A
been like
blue
7
moon
years,
and
though.
a red moon.
Maybe you need like 20 years of praying to make
No,
things red.
should have been
I
red.
don't know.
I will die on this not real hill.
Fine.
But
I
if
mean,
it was red,
I wouldn't have liked him if he was red. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
say that much.
You know
Wow.
if it was red,
The
he'd be 3
lambs
times
of
faster.
Dalamud, who they tied back into the story, by the way.
Yeah.
Lambs of
You know what
Mhm.
color their robes are?
Red.
Red.
But they're all gone except for that guy.
I mean, they're around.
Oh yeah.
Who praying to make moon red now?
I'm
Nobody.
sure there's a couple of them.
I loved his design. I thought he was the most beautiful, most adorable, wonderful doggo. I love him. I was on the fence about Menfina's design I like it more now, having seen her in game,
Mhm.
but
It still
I
needs better
still
eyebrows.
better eyebrows. Yeah,
The eyebrows
something's
is
going
weird.
on. They're so small and so light, but like not in like a very cute way. I don't know. It makes her face look funny
I agree.
compared
like
to the other ones.
It's a
If you ever-
shrine maiden like look, yeah.
I mean, I guess
Kind
so.
of.
That's
Yeah,
true.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But-
A truly blonde or a truly like light redheaded person in real life also has super like light eyebrows, so it's
That's
not
true.
unrealistic, and it's kind of common in character creation too.
This is
So
a
they
fantasy
probably just
game, though.
weren't-
It's okay if they wanted to make them
Mm.
darker, not be realistic.
No, they probably just weren't paying attention. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just
Ouch.
it's just stylistic because she's supposed to be kind of the maiden of the moon who will punish you, Sailor Moon and all that.
Yeah.
So
Oh
it
my
Yeah,
God.
Greek
that's why her
goddess
eyebrows are
Hatsune
like that.
Miku. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
she's so
kind
Sailor
of
Moon.
fell. Yeah, I kind of fell the other way on her character design. I don't really like. I don't hate it. I'm
Mhm.
not a fan.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
I think for me, like one of the things that stand out from like this tier, I love Nimia's like little like
Mhm.
thing on her
Yeah.
back, just because
Yeah,
it
the
like
spinning
it gives me like we're introducing jobs in a Final Fantasy 14 and the bard's harp is a bow and it's like, oh shit, like it gives me that kind of vibe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I just,
also
when I
like
think about Memphina, I think elegant lady of love, right?
Mhm.
Not pop star Hatsune Miku. It's just-
I mean,
Right.
it's like spring of
that's just
love.
personal opinion, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's a rabbit,
yeah.
the early part of love, the maidenly. You know what I mean? It's that type of love, and
She's
Nazema is the other.
literally
Yeah.
the goddess of lovers and is the only one that has an official lover.
Yep.
Oh, that's actually a really good point that I had forgotten about. You're right. Isn't it? Is her
It's
lover Oshan?
Oshan.
I was
Yes.
gonna say, isn't her
It is-
lover Oshan?
I'm not surprised at all that she is a final boss because she is significant to where this story is probably going.
Mhm.
shocking that the
Oh,
youngest looking of the 12 from a Japanese developer would be the one with a
So,
lover.
but like throwing back to the song though, I really want clear lyrics because she
Mhm.
often refers to my darling, my love. Is she talking to us or is she talking to Oshan?
I don't know. It's interesting. I actually hadn't thought about it in that framework, which is fascinating. Yes, I agree. It is weird. I mean, okay, the youthful naivety. You could
Mhm.
also, I suppose, frame it as different types of Greek love, that there
Yeah.
is one that's supposed to be more innocent and pure, agape,
Mhm.
right? Agape.
I
It's
think
supposed
so.
to be more innocent and pure.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you're saying, with the actual context of lore, now of course, they have talked about the fact that like people may oftentimes have different beliefs, like the rivalry between
Mhm.
Halone and Nofika, which they claim really isn't a thing. That like different legends or myths might not be
Mhm.
completely spot on, but it is interesting that some of those are, like the brother and sister relation, right? So
Mhm.
of course there could be like a game of historical telephone, especially if we know now that
Yeah.
they were based off of actual ancients.
Mhm.
So that like that could be a thing, and then the shapes and forms that they adopted again have been altered at some point or formative at some point to these entities to where they would change and she would look more childlike.
Yeah.
But you're right, I had forgotten that she actually is generally in mythology portrayed as like much more seductive, like not like not like she's out there seducing everybody, but like more of an Aphrodite, a mature
Mature.
love.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
like
mean-
that she has a lover and she has like these other, so that does make it
Yeah.
a little weird, but it
She's
could
got
be
her
a
shit
public
together. She's got a
change.
lover and a dog. She's established.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry to have brought it back to story mechanics.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of that though. It's the story goes into the mechanics in this game, and that's why
Mhm.
the fight was the way it was.
I will say that speaking of unique
Mhm.
weapons, the weapon that Dalamud wields, I had a moment where I was like, I could see them making that a real thing. He has a sickle, like a little sickle,
Mhm.
and then he has a discus that like hovers above. I think it's either over him or it might be over
Mhm.
Menfina. It's like this little disc that hovers. So you
Yep.
I
have
think
like
it's
the
over
disc.
him because doesn't she sit
Yeah.
on it when
She's
they're
Yes!
carried in the paw.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's like okami, I guess you could say,
Mhm.
like
Oh, yeah.
on the back that you use for attacks.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's kind of like that. So you have that little discus and then a sickle, and I could see that being some
And
future classes
together,
weapon.
it makes what she's depicted with usually, which is a skillet. the discus on top
Oh,
of the sickle
Oh my
symbol.
God.
Yeah, that's what she's depicted as, a maid carrying a round skillet.
Funny.
I
That-
love it.
Yeah.
And it also kind of looks like if the discus is like the silhouette of the
Mhm.
full moon,
Yep.
and then the sickle is the like
Corona.
the little
Yeah.
crescent. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. I love it. That's cool.
You know what? Since we're talking about mechanics, I don't know. I really not necessarily appreciated, but was very amused by the donut / point blank mechanic that Nofika does in the first fight.
Yep.
Because you can look at her and watch like her glow. Oh, her glow is pink. It's gonna be point blank. Or you could just look at the freaking floor. If she's doing that attack and the floor is covered in flowers, get away from her.
Yeah.
It's so very
Oh,
obvious.
that's a good point. That's a good point. I felt like, okay, so if we're talking about the patch as a whole with mechanics, right? I felt like the 24-man, like we've been talking about, it had some memorable mechanics. I particularly loved the tarot. I loved, again, every time as a former astrologian main, I'm like, why can't I have thing like that? I loved the reversal of cards. I mean,
Yep.
that is
Yeah.
such a thing within tarot. I thought that was really neat. I love the like enrage
Yep.
Yeah.
debuff that she puts on. I think that's so cool. I loved all those mechanics. Thought they were really interesting. When we were talking about Rubicante as well, I thought that the jigsaw mechanic this time around, where it's
Yeah.
the trail that like traces, but
Mhm.
then the pieces align in different ways. I thought that was creative, and that took me a couple times to really get where I was like, oh, that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And I liked that a lot. I thought the dungeon mechanics were fine. One note that I actually thought was kind of cute, which is sort of adjacent to mechanics, is that there is actually an internal timer on that first
Yep.
boss. Now, I don't know how they judge this. I'm not sure. I think it must be different for trust runs versus player runs, because when I did it with trusts are notoriously the slowest
Yep.
ever
Mhm.
when it comes to DPS, but I still got at the end of it like, you're amazing. And like, you did so well, a hero. And that, or
Oh,
like
it's the
your,
second one, right?
yes, it's
Yeah.
the
Second one.
doll. It's the doll,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
puppet.
Yeah.
So she gives you different ratings, and she actually references the Reaper trainer, who she
Yep.
says was like one of the most
Mhm.
prolific Reapers that was ever
Drusilla, yep.
trained there. Drusilla, yeah. So if you do really well, she says you're like Drusilla returned kind of thing. But then when I ran it with like real players, we ran through it, and it was like, you did bad. And I was like, what?
I think it's because with the trust they have like a baseline, and then they also have a time limit so that it never takes too long. And I think it's just made so that they'll step it up. Like I haven't really tried to test it.
Is it the timeline or is it like mechanics? Because we've had in dungeons and well, not necessarily dungeons, but we've had in things before where like you get hit by something,
Yeah.
you quote unquote
I
do badly
literally-
at a mechanic.
I literally didn't move. I was like, "You're gonna heal me. I'll be fine. I just want to kill this thing faster." Because I knew that when it started, it's like we're evaluating you, and I'm like, I wonder if I'm gonna try and kill it as quickly as I can.
Do you recall if during that run where you did bad, anybody just like ate shit a whole lot?
Did you get the best rating?
Yeah,
Rating?
with trust. Yeah, I haven't done it
Even
again.
getting hit by every mechanic?
I got hit by at least a couple because I wasn't moving. Yeah.
Interesting.
You know how she does the swing and then the opposite? I just
Yeah, they must
stood
have
there.
a
Gotcha.
because you know the trusts are gonna just stand and stuff sometimes, so
Yeah, I
maybe that
know.
bar is a little bit higher.
Well,
Yeah.
she also has a piece of dialogue beforehand where she says, "I'm timing you." So
Yeah.
I assumed it had
Oh.
something
Yeah,
to
I
do
think
with
it's time.
timing.
Mm.
But I don't know. It may
Yeah.
have been confirmed. I see in chat Azazel says it's about mechanics, which we have had in the past. That like Azim step boss and stuff. But
Bartram's
I thought
Medal,
that was
yeah.
cute. I like that. I think even if they did something like that, people would try to speedrun these, right? Like to try and see if they could get all of them. Or so I thought that was clever. As far as like the actual mechanical difficulty of everything. And again, this is just a personal opinion. Everybody's going to have a different threshold of difficulty. I felt like this was not as challenging as 6.2. The dungeons were about on par.
Yeah.
Like I don't
You
think
run
the
through 'em.
mechanics, you just go through them. I think maybe the dungeon was like a little tiny bit spicier this time around, but again, they're pretty on par. The Alliance raid I thought was easier. There were some mechanics that, still got me a couple times, but it wasn't like Aglaya where, like the arena
Sure.
literally falls out from underneath you and you're like,
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
and there's all the other stuff that happens in those fights. And Naldthal, I think, was a distinctively more difficult fight than Menfina.
Mhm.
No, I
Um,
agree. The 24-man this time was easier overall. I felt like the story was still on par, but like
Mhm.
I was less. It makes me sad to say, but I was less impressed with the 24-man just because of the mechanics this time. It was just kind of easier.
No,
I'm
yeah.
same with you in the dungeon. Like it was a little bit harder, and I liked it because it was a little bit harder. Because like especially that first fight in the previous dungeon was like, and I'm just gonna press the AOE button this whole time, even if I'm a healer. Did you get hit? That's okay. You're gonna regen before anything else happens to you.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But to even add on that, like even the trial was significantly easier. I
Mhm.
thought like Ruby Conte
thought-
was much easier than Barbaricia. Even with the
I-
like things that look complicated, once you understand them, it's like, oh, that makes sense. Whereas in Barbaricia, it's kind of like, and that's a tornado that's under my feet, and I'm in the air, and oh god, I can't avoid that one. And
Well, I mean,
It
the
was-
thing it was also that they're different fights, right? Like with Barbaricia, the big thing that we hadn't really had before in a fight, it was very fast. You had to move very quickly and move around and stuff. Whereas with Rubicante, it's like, okay, follow the line, don't stand where the thing is going to land. And so I think like the core of the fight, right, is very different, and obviously that's going to make it have a very different feel.
Right.
Yeah. From a healing standpoint, Barbaricia was so fun.
oh my gosh,
Oh my gosh. So fun. I love it because there's so much chaos that
Mhm.
like figuring out how you're going to time, when you're going to time, I really got to make good use of a lot of my cooldowns and things. And I felt like even the very first time, day of release, when I ran that fight on normal, I got to the end and I was like,
yeah,
like,
the normal
I was like,
version is
"Oh,
definitely
boy."
Yeah.
I used everything that I had. I was resin left and right. I was, and I really loved that. We had one wipe on Rubicante, and then everybody pretty much picked it up. But I have not done the extreme version. So we did extreme Barbaricia together,
Mhm.
but I haven't done Rubicante extreme yet. So I don't know if that like steps it up markedly. I don't know if there's like a bonus phase. I don't know yet. I haven't done it, so.
I ended up in a pickup group and they didn't need a dancer, so I ended up healing it with the disclaimer: I'm not a savage or raid healer, just so you know. And the people are like, no, it's you're gonna be fine. They were right. Rubicante is kind of a healing snorefest. There's not unless people just don't understand the mechanics and you have to like make up for people getting hit by things they shouldn't being hit by, which happens, sure.
Yeah.
But if people are like on track, understanding what's going on, like you don't heal except for maybe like 3 main big times. Which is it's just very boring.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, so I don't know. I felt like overall we still got some unique, interesting mechanics with this patch. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that stands out to me that there were definitely some where I was like, okay, this is cool. This is an interesting iteration. It maybe didn't feel quite at the same difficulty. I didn't feel like maybe there was quite as much variety. But I mean, I think we did still have memorable fights, and I
love
did
the
enjoy
stupid
that.
Sure.
stampede of animals. That
Mhm.
stupid
Yeah.
stampede.
That's
so funny.
one. That's one. Yes, I loved that. That was
so
cool.
good.
That one
Yeah.
was good.
I do. I
Um,
also liked
yeah.
that sometimes even in the same mechanic in that first fight, the guy, he does a left or a right swipe, but he turns around. You don't normally expect him to just turn around.
Yep.
So you really have to be paying attention. But he doesn't turn around all the time, just most of the time.
Yeah. Another thing that I just remembered as I was looking over stuff to add into our gameplay element of the review / mechanics, it encompasses all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
The new Crystalline Conflict map.
Yes.
Oh,
Sure.
goodness.
Now,
Oh, goodness.
that
That is a
is
time.
spicy. It's a spicy. I love it. And I can see why everyone else that I can probably think of that I'll talk to ever, maybe not all of you, but I can see why everybody would hate it. Because I think in a PvP game mode, you never want the deciding factor to be some environmental effect. Yet,
Mhm.
at the
Yeah.
same time, I really like that they tried to do something drastically different than the
Yep.
other Crystalline Conflict maps. I love that it's weird corridors, so everything has to be played around corners and down these straight shots. I love that you have all these bizarre things that happen on the map, and it's so hectic because I mean these matches are short. So the amount of stuff that happens in one, you have to be really aware of. And I do think that it in some way evens the playing field in picks that you might choose that focus more knockback, CC, ranged
Yep.
even, which I honestly think is nice because so much in other games like this that I've played where, you know, you get the one class that's really good at one-shotting people, and then like that's the class you just bring
Yep.
into everything. But what's kind of cool about this map is that, honestly, I think that if you are a class that knows how to cleverly play the map, even if your raw DPS and the abilities and things that you have, or your limit break aren't a guaranteed one shot if you land it, you have opportunities to push people, lock them down, mess them up, let your ranged focus them. You have opportunities to bind people in place when those mammoths go across the field. You have, and so in that regard, I actually really love it, and I think it kind of forces a shakeup.
It's gonna
Um,
it's
yeah.
gonna irritate those Final Destination no items players, right? Which is never how I played Smash Brothers. Like, and to me, PvP is about that chaos and about the counterplay. And the environment should be a part of that. Now, in a tournament, maybe you should play on the Academia one. Sure, that makes perfect sense. Everybody on a fun playing field that's even. But for fun, yeah, throw on all the items. Who cares? Like, it's a whole lot of fun. Now, I'm sure it gets annoying when you're chasing rank. I get that. I understand that. But like most people who like PvP more than PvE will say, well, PvE is just a script. You just do it the same way over and over and over again. Yeah, and a blank stage is what? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Here.
Well, and you know the benefit too, right? When we talk
Yeah.
about casual versus comp, like they're on a timer. Like you'll know when
you can just chill.
you're gonna have those. So just don't do it during that time. And I think
Just chill.
it's a great way because it's gonna give people that maybe like again, right? Like we talked about this last time, right? When they redid Crystal and Conflict, or when they added Crystal and Conflict, we're like, holy crap, it's like casual, accessible PvP. And now that we've had a little bit more of that, right? People are either not doing it anymore or they're still staying with it. But you need something to keep the casual players to keep trying it, right? As new players come into the game, be like, oh, this was like crazy and fun and ridiculous. And I think that's what this map achieves. If you're comp and it's, you know, it's a little too much and, you know, there's factors outside of like each team's control, just don't do it during that time and it's fine.
Well, here, how about, okay, so when I started it, I hated it. I hated the map. It's no, thank you, no. Why is that? Why does the tatami flip over so quickly? This is dumb. I don't understand. I gave it a chance, though. Give it a chance. Once you understand how the arena works, once you figure out all the tricks, once you realize when you touch this door, it shoots you across the arena. When you touch this door, it just flips you around and you can't come back. It's interesting. It's fun. You can use it to your advantage as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah.
And I love the freaking coins because I only play PvP on White Mage. And nobody because I only do what's it called, casual. So nobody on the first couple of days understood what those coins were for, and nobody picked them up, so I just picked them up, and everybody was stunned for a very long time, and we won a lot. It was actually on that map. I got 10 kills as a White Mage. That was the highest kills I've ever had.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So I ended up having quite a good time on that map actually.
Yep.
I see that as a challenge to everybody, right? I mean, of course, like Aldino was saying, in high-end gameplay or like in competitive settings, there's a lot of discussion, right? But I even think that if you are just a general player outside of tournaments that is ranking up in this game, consider it a challenge, right? I think a lot of times I don't know, as players, something happens that we find arduous or annoying. And rather than being like, I take this as a personal challenge to get ridiculously good at this, people will instead just be like, screw this, I'm just not going to do it. This is stupid. And it's like, to me, I think if you want PvP to stay interesting, it has to be a balance of things, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
And like, you have to introduce new challenges in some way, shape, or form
And
that make you think differently.
and the rewards are actually worth it now. Like there's a
track and-
variety of stuff, and even trying to get up to 25 can be a pain in the butt if you're not like super into PvP. But that dragon mount was so cool.
Don't
So-
say it.
Oh,
Don't
no.
say it.
What?
Oh, you haven't heard. How many ranks were you away after grinding that last day, Rook?
Oh
One-
no, buddy.
1.5.
Oh no.
Yes. I was 1.5
But
rank
you can
away.
still get it.
I can't get it. It's
No,
gone
'cause-
now.
No, because that was didn't they say you can still get the rewards the time after? Aren't we
If you,
still on the
if you
time
earn
after?
if you earned them,
If you unlocked them when
Yeah.
you hit the rank.
you can
No, I
redeem.
thought-
Yeah,
them.
it turned over.
I thought you could still go. I'm so sorry.
No.
It was the
no,
end of the
it's
series,
fine.
yeah.
It's cool. I bought a house and moved into it. And so
Mhm.
I thought I had enough. I grounded for 2 days. And the second day, I spent 10 hours playing PvP. And the service went down. And I was 1.5 ranks. Yeah, I didn't get the dragon.
Please,
out. That's
please
fine.
don't cry right now.
Oh my gosh, it was look. They supposedly at some point are going to be bringing back old rewards. It's not the end of the world.
It'll happen,
There are
yeah.
other
Yeah.
dragon mounts I can get. Will I say that I that day closed the computer, got up and went into the living room and maybe did have a cry
Buddy.
because I was
Aw.
so exhausted and so tired from our move and our life
Mhm.
and everything. Good stuff, but at the same time, I was just like, I wanted this one stupid dragon in a video game, and I couldn't even get it after 10 hours. like, yes, I had a rough time. It was hard. It's emotional, but it's fine. Like, you just have to pace it out. Anybody can do the PvP
Mhm.
stuff. You can get through it. And like I said, I think there's some fun, enjoyable challenge. And if you don't love your normal PvE class, take a different class in. Try the other PvP classes. Because I know people now who have specific PvP mains because they love how different the class is in PvP. And I'm getting that armor set this time, so help me.
Mhm.
And like, there's so many good rewards from it, and the emote and the frame kits now, and all sorts of stuff.
Mhm.
So like,
Is
it's
that the
fine.
link pearl emote that comes from that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's okay, Darth. I see you in chat. It's all right. I know. You didn't get
Sorry,
it either. It's fine. It's okay. I salute all of you. We tried. We tried so hard. But they have said that they will probably bring back rewards at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that you
Maybe-
earn with the crystals.
Maybe it'll be a
or-
different color next time. Maybe it'll be a blue dragon next
But
time.
what if she wanted the red
Don't say that.
dragon?
Yeah, don't say that.
You can get a red dragon mount with like a
Yeah.
little hammer.
Yeah.
I can. I'm on my way to getting that one.
I
So
mean the
that's
Monster
fine.
Hunter dragon is kind of red. Like
Yeah.
I mean
I do have that one.
We'll
so,
get the
but-
Series 5, and then you'll buy it for like 3,000 trophy crystals or something.
it's fine.
Yeah, that's my
they
assumption.
don't want to do FOMO. They don't. Like, that is the worst thing to ever feel in a battle pass, is that fear of missing out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And so hopefully they've learned from that, and we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I think they will. I feel
Yeah.
confident. But all of that to say, yes, super fun. And then that also reminded me of class changes, not for PvP, but
Mm-hmm.
in the
Yeah.
game itself. So
Paladin.
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 Paladin
Paladin.
has
I
buttons.
was gonna say, has Bebop played the Paladin?
No.
Okay.
So since we stopped doing our regular nights, Bebop is not logged into 14 at all.
No.
So yes, we'll have to see. I mean, I'll have to get more information about that at some point from them. I don't know if any of you have tried it. From what I've heard, mostly from the community,
Mhm.
it's not that the changes aren't welcome, but rather that it's been kind of strange in
Yeah.
that, like, the way the rotation fits together. What Bebop did say when I was just explaining to them what I had heard,
Mhm.
that, okay, everybody get ready. I'm going to do my best to sound real smart about this.
Okay.
And like, I know a lot about Paladin.
Mhm.
Previously, with Paladin gameplay, one of the big things you were constantly trying to counteract was the drift of your rotation. So, of course, you have a set rotation that you go through and maintain. Drifting in this regard has to do with the timeline of that rotation and the fact that certain things timed at, over the course of your natural rotation might, over time with Paladin, get pushed back so that the actual lineup of the various, like fundamental rotation, and Paladin never had like the burst windows that other classes did, so it was more throughput damage, but you have to hit certain markers within that rotation to maintain the damage thresholds through it. So the new changes, from what I understand, funnily enough, don't bring it in line with the current burst window of Dancer, and in fact still have drift that accumulates unless you do some awkward things where you have to cut off or abandon certain casts to make sure that the rotation will continue punctually and effectively. So it seems like perhaps the negative downsides of Paladin have not been fully addressed. The end. That's what I've got. Thank you. Thank
Well
you.
done.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that's true though.
That was day one for
Okay.
for certain. People have
Okay.
found a good way to rotate that gives you a little bit of wiggle room, which is not a thing that any job has. Like you have to be more rigid. So Paladin's a little bit
they did
flowy.
they did add some wiggle room to some other jobs.
It's true.
Dragoon got 2 extra seconds on live
Mhm.
search for some wiggle room.
Like I said
Uh,
in the impression show, this is the patch of wiggle room.
Dancer.
This is what it is.
Used to be when you were dancing, you could not use your heels
Yeah.
or your shields, and now you can, and that's a very nice change because I often noticed, my dance is up. I can't hit the shield. Sorry. Now I can. I asked a paladin friend of mine, hey, is paladin more or less boring now? And I asked them in the middle of last show when they weren't here, but they did eventually answer. He said, more, I guess. I've been theory crafting nonstop for days, so I'd say no, but more of its rotation doesn't matter than before.
Yep. The wiggle room, yeah.
Yeah.
There's like 3 filler GCDs in the normal one, which not very many jobs can say that. Like you have 3 GCDs that you can kind of wiggle it around. But then yeah, it's the burst meta. It's always going to be, like they got to get this many things in there, and they made that a little bit easier. So that's cool, but it didn't end up really giving much damage that I can see, that I can feel, right? Because that's the only way we can find these things out is by feel.
Yeah.
And
So
Just like Vinod said, just
Yeah.
feel,
yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
hmm
Here,
hear, feel,
listen,
think, parse.
listen to your fellow players.
hmm
Interesting. Okay. Well,
But the defensive stuff is awesome. Like Divine Veil without having to get a heal. That's cool.
mhm.
It
2
is,
pure
but I'm also
damage
like,
mitigation.
that's cheating.
It is. It is. The 2, Sheltron and I'm spacing now, but both of those are damage mitigations, and now we got
Bulwark.
Bulwark back
Yeah.
to be shield. So like, that's pretty cool.
I think those
That's
things,
something.
I mean, it doesn't seem like it made it worse. So there is that, right? There is that.
The only way in
Yeah.
which it made it worse is then paladins then have to like relearn their jobs.
Yes,
like-
yeah.
It's like on average like 3% worse. But you didn't hear that from me. It's okay. It's a
I
very
did
small
hear
amount.
That.
Ether
I did
told
hear
you
that.
that?
Yeah.
He just
that's,
felt it.
Yeah, you put your ear up to
he
a
just
shield.
reached out and he's
Yeah.
like, that feels about 3% different.
hmm I'm very good at that. Yeah.
Interesting.
But like that doesn't really matter. It's a little bit easier to burst. You have a little bit higher cap, but yeah, kind of comes out in the wash. But hey, that's good. It didn't get destroyed.
It didn't
you
get
don't have-
destroyed. It
You
isn't
don't have
terrible.
Legos for a rotation. You got adjustments like every other category other than caster
Aldi
did.
knows.
So it's fine.
okay.
It's good.
Okay.
It's good.
Yeah.
They know what they did. They know
Yeah.
that small adjustments aren't going to change things. I don't. You know what? I don't know why. In this in this expansion, which we will call the Paladin expansion, they are
Mhm.
actually working on Paladin. They've never done that for anybody before. What is this nonsense?
I mean,
They were
it's
so
kind
sorry.
of a bummer. I mean, it does feel like I know I saw in the chat as well the mention of the dot being removed.
Yeah.
Which I mean, like again, they've seemed to remove. I kind of my brain stopped for a second as I tried to grapple with how to phrase this in
Mhm.
a polite way. I get that they seem to be wanting to remove those things that require perhaps more micromanagement, one might say.
Stop it.
That you need to look at the things and you need to register and you need to time and you need to align those things. But removing dots in certain regards, like from Summoner, it felt more like perhaps they want to do something else
Yeah.
thematically, which was
And then they
fine.
didn't. But it's
And then
okay.
yeah, but like I feel like you still could have gotten. Do you still have a dot with like fire with Ifrit? Is there something with that where it does like
No.
burning?
No,
that's
no
weird.
dots. The only dot is the ground
get hot.
AoE. Yeah, there's
God.
there's a ground AoE from Garuda that they have to stand in. It's
Yeah.
like
Right.
Shadow Flare was a
Was
dot.
that did.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's it.
Interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just strange that it feels like they're stripping those out of all classes. I don't know if they're
Yeah.
trying to make room for a class that does dots and that's what it does.
Mhm.
I don't know if they're trying. I'm not sure, but
There
it
was a
is-
lot
been
of
asking for
technical
chemist.
issues.
We had that job.
there were a
It was
lot-
Summoner.
Yeah. There's just a lot of technical issues with dots because of the way
I
that they
feel-
tick, because of the
Oh, no.
maximum that you can have.
I feel like they're
True.
trying to get rid of dots, like,
They are.
period, and I wish they wouldn't.
Yeah.
I know, because I mean, again, we just see this constant narrowing down.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, in our podcast where we went in depth about balance, that's something that I would refer everybody to, because I think we
Yeah.
went into that in a
Yeah.
much greater detail than we can
Yep.
now. But it is unfortunate, especially too when you see this kind of redesign for Paladin,
Mhm.
really not make much of an impact, really
Yeah.
not address certain issues as to why people might or might not bring it in, or why players may or may not personally find it as satisfying, or
Mhm.
feel as though they find it as rewarding to strive towards goals of sensing in the ether over. I love playing Paladin. I've always enjoyed it. I like it thematically, but I just play that for funsies, just
Mhm.
because I am scared of all the other tanks, and I push button on Paladin and it's fine. So, but that's my casual opinion on it. But I have seen the way that affects other people. So it's interesting that with this redesign, they really didn't address, I think, a lot of the things that people hoped they would, and in fact took a few things away, although gave some other defensive things. And it kind of just ended up being kind of in the same place generally as it was anyway.
Mhm.
Now, on the other side of this, I do want to say that a change from this patch that I thought was really great was the bard change. I love
Mhm.
that now,
Mhm.
is it Nature's Mini?
Yep.
Nature's Min
Nature's Min. Yep.
now like applies to, it's the whole party, right? Where
Yep.
you
Yeah.
all get a heal up kind of
Everybody.
like
Yep.
mantra.
Mm.
It
I
was
love that.
definitely a thing that Bard needed to be given. Not,
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
not even necessarily that particular thing, but in comparison to Dancer, I'm gonna admit this, Bard needed more buffins stuffins.
Yep.
And that's a good one to have added.
Yeah, and Machinist got some
Got fixed.
damage and got some quality of life, and then got some utility finally.
We
Yeah.
got
So
our,
they've finally
we got
given
our
up on that.
wrench. We got our wrench
Yeah.
back. It feels I haven't reached out into the Aether and feel
Mhm.
Machinist, right?
But
But
yeah.
Have you felt?
Yeah, I have. Uh-huh.
How does Machinist feel?
It feels a bit more gooder. Yeah,
Okay.
it's more gooder.
We're gooder.
Yeah, it's
Let's
more
Like the
gooder.
story, it was good.
Yeah, it's it's getting up there to the goodness of like the worst melee, which is exactly where it should be. Maybe somewhere around there
Yeah.
would be nice. So that's good.
It
That's
feels it feels mentally better playing it
Yeah.
and knowing that like I don't have the best. I'm not
Yeah.
like completely. I'm not like jacked into the server like right
Yeah.
next to me. It's like
I
my
don't
ping
know.
is not perfect, therefore I cannot play Machinist perfectly. Like
Yeah, I don't-
that feels
Ooh,
We'll
nice.
see more this
meanwhile,
next week, I think, with Machinist. So.
Ninja.
Yeah.
That's a
happened?
problem.
What happened?
Meanwhile,
Mudras are effed right
Yep.
now.
Yep, they're
Well,
having some
they-
issues.
Isn't that what the hotfix was for? Did that not fix it?
I
they have
I
think
think so. As of like Thursday. When was
Yeah.
the hotfix?
Hotfix was last week, so no.
yeah.
Interesting.
so
Yeah,
then.
there was a problem with that. That'll
Mhm.
I made a note about that in presentation even.
Yeah.
I when we transition to that, I don't know if
Yeah.
is that our next category?
Yeah.
It is actually.
So,
So
yeah.
Yeah.
I think, are we done with gameplay? I think we are.
I think so. I mean, we
Segue!
talked about all the changes and
We're
everything
so
else.
good with these natural segues. It's like we know
But-
what we're doing. I love it.
amazing. I'm glad we gave that impression. Yeah, the two things, there's a lot about presentation that was exceptional this patch,
Mhm.
but two things that were kind of detractors as far as the polished presentation release of the patch. We had the problem with the mudras, and then this did not seem to affect everybody, and I cannot say 100% that this was something with the patch and that it was, I can't say that, so take this
Mhm.
with a grain of salt. But I very rarely, other than like expansion releases where this is an issue, I very rarely, if ever, deal with disconnection issues in the game. And after the patch, but before the hotfix, it hasn't happened for me in 14 since the hotfix. But before that, there was one night where I was trying to take a friend through the New Alliance raid, and I got DC'd 10 times in a row. I
Wow.
got kicked to the login screen. Eventually, I came in, we were on the last boss, and they vote kicked me because I'd been DC'd so much.
Aw.
And I was
So
like,
much.
That
I know. I was
having
like, that's
been
fair,
said,
but-
though, I've been watching your stream since you moved, and you have had some internet issues.
I had one internet issue this past week that did cause some problems. So again, take it with a grain of salt. But I also had it happening in cutscenes. And at the time, the rest of my internet was functioning fine. Like I was still in a Discord call with my friend.
Mhm.
I was still like everything else seemed to be fine. I wasn't getting DC'd from that, whereas
Okay.
the issues I've had with my ISP this week,
Sure.
I was getting cut off from other stuff, even though it was really quick.
Okay,
So
okay,
again,
okay.
grain of salt, but I
Mhm.
heard that some other people had some lag
Yeah.
issues, had some issues with like disconnects or getting booted out of the cutscenes or stuff like that. And then after the hotfix, it has not happened to me since then.
I heard as well people were having issues with disconnecting. I didn't have any
Mhm.
of that personally, but
Yeah.
the very first thing, because I logged in the very first thing with the patch, trying to get into my retainers, which was the very first thing I did, took like 10 minutes. That's hyperbole, but like just like summoning them
Mm.
took a minute. No joke, took for a minute for the guy to show up, and I'm like, what is happening? And that could have just
Weird.
been like waves of people trying
Yeah.
to get in for the patch, but
Yeah.
if sorry, the phone went off.
The phone.
If the server was having issues and people were being disconnected, it could have been related to that.
Mm.
Yeah. It happened to other people also, apparently. Thanks, chat.
That's always the hardest thing where it's like, well, I had all these issues. I'm like, I've been fine. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. So, yeah, it's some weird stuff with their servers right
Mhm.
now. I don't know.
Mhm.
Hopefully, they figure out what it is and fix it before Ultimate.
Yeah.
Because
Very close.
I mean, it even could have been related to housing stuff.
Yeah.
Just like
maybe.
things
Instances. Yeah.
They weren't the game was like, oh wait, there's more shit I have to consider right now.
Everybody's in their retainer because they're getting their furniture out to put in their new houses. Or,
True.
you know.
Like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did see really quick in the chat, I wanted to mention on it, Tempest brings up, hasn't been in the patch discussion yet, and I think it probably falls in, well, sure, polish or miscellaneous, I guess maybe miscellaneous, but crafted ruby weapons. So we
Oh, yeah.
did get those as an unexpected bonus.
I forgot all about those.
Yeah,
Ruby weapons aren't that pretty.
they're fine.
Yeah.
I mean, they look better than without it.
Yeah, they definitely do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they remind me of that terrible foot boss. So
I wasn't that impressed. I won't lie. When you compare it to something like Byakko or like the really distinctive ones we've been
Yeah.
getting, or
Mhm.
gosh, the Titania weapons that just came out, those ones were breathtaking.
Mhm.
This one, I was like, it's red, it glows. It kind of looked like it needed it, so I guess.
instead of
Yeah.
And that's always
instead
the
of this,
weird thing
maybe
about the
Tsukiyoki
trial weapons
weapon.
now. Like, they come out and they're like, oh, cool, they got the trial weapon. But then, like, next expansion, like, the crafted one comes out and it's, like, way cooler looking. And it's like, this is what I should have gotten.
Well, I mean, sometimes they're upgrades, but yeah,
Yeah.
I honestly, in the case of this one, and I'm sorry to anybody who legitimately likes these, but why don't you go back and make weapons for people who don't have them in trials where they're actually pretty, like Tsukuyomi
Fair.
or Byakko? Like, it
Yeah.
pains me that I don't have a dancer Byakko weapon because that effect is cool as hell.
Yeah, it's very, very
it's
cool.
It
so
really
cool.
is. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good.
That's one
Yeah, I
of my
love
favorite
that.
weapon effects.
But otherwise, presentation-wise, right? So there were those
Mhm.
little blips, but I thought that overall, the patch, the actual quality of the patch was
Mhm.
really spot on. I mean, we talked about the animations.
The infamous meat bun.
Oh,
Yep.
The meat bun is so jiggly,
Mhm.
and it looks so fluffy, and when she eats it, she looks so happy, and I just want her to eat buns every day. And I honestly was impressed not just with the meat bun, but all of the subtle animations. There were small things about Zero's
Yes.
expressions that
Mhm.
I cannot remember us seeing that much nuance in the facial animations. Tiny little things where her eyes narrow or she averts her eyes, or the little hat where she's clearly trying to hide all her feelings.
She,
And
she
yeah.
needs to calm down with that hat thing. Like,
She did
She
do it
did
a
at least-
lot.
yeah, it was like a lot.
Hat thing
I
is
mean,
like
I
the
get it.
new stoic nod. Like,
It's
just-
self-soothing, you know.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
it's
I
like
guess.
a
I guess
Maybe-
it's like your tick or whatever, but calm down.
sure.
Maybe if she is a shard, it's their own meta commentary on the stoic nod.
That's
exactly.
her tell.
Oh
If
my
you play poker
God.
with Zero and
All
she
right, I forgive it. That's fine.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, but I
um,
loved her facial and all
yeah.
the animations.
animation
I
team
know
killed
that-
it.
Yeah, I know that we've had some of us have some issues with the portraits because they're a little bit janky.
Yeah,
they need to be,
they're still
they need to be upgraded. But having that whole thing on top of the 24-man was so cool. I finally was able to move the window. For whatever
Oh, you
reason,
did.
I couldn't move it initially, but now it moves.
so yeah, adventure portraits.
It cracks me up to go into a 24-man. This happened
It-
twice. In
it-
fact, with friends
okay.
even. Hold on.
Yeah.
Um, the entire party will be a default except for one person
Yeah.
down in the corner, and it's always the same corner when I go in there.
That's funny. Yeah. What cracks me up the most is that this was a feature they pulled out of beta because they thought it was done. No, put it back. It needs way more time. The fact that like you go into like an alliance right now, like first off, love the adventure plate or love the portraits in duties. We asked for that. We got it.
Yep.
Cool. Still needs some work. You enter the alliance raid, right? Because everybody's new. Everybody's waiting for cutscenes. The plates should pop then while you're waiting for people to finish cutscenes, not in the 5 seconds after that when the duty like starts and you don't get to see them. Like they need to work on the timing of that. That's terrible. The window that they're in needs some work. It feels like they just kind of threw them together. It feels awkward where they are. The sizing of it gets weird. It needs a little more polish.
It still feels like an early WoW mod.
It still feels like a beta.
Yeah, it's like, you use this one because everybody's using it, but it pops a bunch of errors and it doesn't always save your settings, and that's what it feels like.
That's the part that drives me nuts, how finicky it is with saving the stuff. It boggles my mind that this was a thing that they actually were like, hey, we're trying this new thing out. We're calling this beta. And then they're like, yeah, it's done. It's better. They didn't fix the mirroring issues with some of the backgrounds like we observed. Some of the ways that things layer are still messed up. How is this out of beta?
I'm gonna drop this bombshell, and I love this game. But 1.0, how is that out of beta? You know what I mean? Like, it's sometimes.
Like
sometimes.
I mean, look, like while we're throwing stuff out here, if you're in Rothgar, how did those get like official release? Like it's just like I get it, right? Like there are time restrictions, there are resource restrictions, like thing needs to get out by certain times and stuff like this, but like this is so clunky still. It's still very clunky. And it's cool that they added like framers kits to like Shadowbringers, Beast Tribes and stuff that you get now. Like that's really cool. But it's still very obscure the way you have to set it up and save it and tie it to your job set. It's weird and it doesn't feel good and it's very finicky.
It's weird that your adventurer plate can show a persistent image no matter what glamour you have on, but that your portraits, your instant portrait, like literally even if you switch off and then switch back to the identical glamour, but if you haven't for whatever reason hit that little gear update button and then gone into the edit on your portrait to ensure that it has it correct, it's super frustrating that it defaults it. And I mean, I agree. I think there's a way to make this all much more intuitive. I will praise them in that I love that they show up. And I have heard the community say that it already has had big effects on like even commendations at the end of a dungeon.
Commendations are totally a fashion contest now.
Well, yeah, but it's nice because one of the big things was that DPS players oftentimes, even if they were the best DPS in the world, very much struggled to get commendations because you kind of default give it to the tank or the healer a lot of times, which is great as a healer. I love it. Don't stop that. But I mean, I feel like now you actually have a shot of being recognized for something other than just like, I don't know, whatever, give it to the tank. And if you have a little cute, clever thing, or you have a fun picture, or you've got a great character, you can kind of show that off. And I agree with Fusion. I'd like them to adjust the timing so that if you do have like auto cutscene, like if it's a replay cutscene, you have that turned off and you're just waiting in that little ring. I'd love it if they show up then. It gives you something to do.
Be part of. I think a lot of this might be from the fact that it's optional. Make it just bake it in, like in Crystalline Conflict. The thing starts, boom. Here's the people you're playing with. Go into the thing. Do it that way because it feels so weird to sit there for like 30 seconds. Nothing's happening, and then real quick they're like portraits, and they're gone. Like it feels weird. They need a lot more work on it. The fact that it was in a beta, they decided that it was official release is disappointing.
Yeah, it's clunky.
I'm not. That's. I think that's the harsher word to use too. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that they're aware of how much people like the idea of the feature, though, and I don't. Think that
I have no doubt they'll continue to develop this and make things better. But it's just it blows my mind that they were like toying with it. Like, this is good now.
I didn't really think about the idea that people are using the portraits for commendations, because I did a 24-man the other day on Dancer, and I got 3 commendations at the end, and I was like, why?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a big thing. With that in mind,
I have a pretty cool Dancer one though, so I mean,
oh yeah, I mean, good.
That's it. There you go.
Yeah, it's definitely affected things. I love it, and I love being able to do that for your character. But again, polish on that could be a little bit better.
Yeah.
I saw a chat mentioning as well as we were talking about this, the Gaia outfit that got released.
Oh yeah, that's.
I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing. We can't really expect anything else because it's not as though there isn't a precedent of this in the game already. Now, of course, there have been a couple sets in recent history where they did break up the pieces, so really getting themselves there in a pickle, because it does kind of set a precedent where you can get different pieces. Now, all of this to say, again, I mean, I'm just of the opinion, especially if you make people buy these for every single character that they have, right? This is not an account-wide unlock. It's not just like a special category that's just outfits or something that you just apply over whatever gear you have that's a whole ensemble. Like Guild Wars 2 has something like that. And I think it's actually great. And it's great if you're leveling up because you're just like, oh yes, let me toss this outfit on because it'll overwrite all of the gear forever indefinitely. It's its own like slot that you can do, so that you look great no matter what, even if you're piecing together a bunch of different gear and upgrading it. But I do think that given the amount of money that they are likely to make from these sets, the time spent porting them to other genders, porting them to pieces instead of just one whole thing. Even, hold on, even skin tone, which is a thing.
That
I've
was
seen,
the biggest thing for
That's
me.
what I was gonna mention. Yeah.
I've seen characters that have dark skin, and the fishnet is just Gaia's skin tone. So it's like, here's my beautiful dark skin. Now somehow I'm all pasty down there.
Yeah, that it was the
think they'll
biggest thing
probably
to me.
I think
They
they'll probably
better
fix
fix
that,
that.
though. Yeah.
Well, they fixed
Well,
2B because 2B was broken.
Exactly. We
Yeah.
have a precedent of them going, oh right, oops, and fixing that as well.
Yeah, I mean, nothing
So
says
hopefully-
huge lazy cash grab like something like this, where it's
Yeah.
just you can tell they really didn't think a whole lot about it, other than like we're gonna
I'm sure.
sell this.
And if there aren't, there needs to be kind posts on the forum about
Yes.
that, so
Yeah,
that they're
there's
aware
one.
that it is an issue.
It's in the bug report forum and it is accepted. It's not, working as intended. It's accepted as a bug. So
yeah,
Cool.
like
It'll
I mean,
happen.
like I get it. Like Square Enix needs to make money. I completely get it. But if they're gonna charge us money for something, they could at least like try.
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it's fair. I think it's fair. Like a critique
So
about other things can be fair, you know,
Mhm.
like
kinda-
Hrothgar Vera hairs and stuff. But
Yeah, it would
That's
be
a,
nice.
that's a whole. We've had that.
well, but we did get some more this patch, and
We
hey,
did.
Yeah.
We did.
the ears and
We did.
everything work on them, so I have to give props for that, which is good. But
Yeah.
again, it's like one of those things where you're just like, you should have just done this from the get go.
It's yeah, like I'll say good job adding it, but also like I'm not gonna give them a trophy for adding something they should have added. When did they add those braces?
Yeah.
So all of these things caused emotional damage, which does not have an icon, but 3 other types of damage do have
It's true.
icons
Yay!
now.
Oh my gosh, Zenidra!
Wow!
Impeccable!
Wow!
Wow!
It's beautiful. Yeah, that's a great ad. I mean, we talked a little bit about this last week when we kind of went through the patch notes. The idea of like, okay, well, all these tank abilities. This one prevents physical. This one prevents. But how do we know? Now we know, and that's really great. I love it.
Which is
Good.
great.
It's such a simple thing, but it's very like, how do we not have this already?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's that one's
Buff
a little
timer.
more. That one feels a little more forgivable than
Buff
other things
timers
we
for
just
the
talked
party.
about. But
That's a
buff
huge one.
timers. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's so cool.
Yeah, lots of really good changes.
C pose. Those new C pose sits.
New
very cute.
sits.
Mhm.
I
Yes,
like
those
being
are
able to
great.
sit differently.
Yeah.
Those are great.
fun.
I like those. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of great little touches, quality of life things. Like we said, a lot of the animation I think was really impeccable. The music as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Fantastic.
to go back to the
Oh my
animation
god, the
too.
Ruby Conte.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
so
Yeah, we'll
good.
get to music.
From
We'll,
Soken.
Yeah, sorry.
we'll get to music in a moment. Yeah. So, I mentioned like the thing with the backpack, right? Like it seems so silly. It's like, oh, it's like a backpack and the thing comes out. Like that took somebody probably a long time to like set up and rig and animate and stuff. And I appreciate the effort that they went through because like, what's the likelihood we're going to see that again? Maybe once more, right? The boots, the booze. I it's hard to
Boots.
pronounce with the boots. Boots. My brain keeps wanting to say boots, but
I was just like,
zero
that's a big
didn't
bow.
put a foot in her mouth, so I don't. But yeah,
Yeah.
just the way they animated that, the way there was like elasticity to it.
Yeah.
we know that this is a older graphical engine that they're working with here, and so the fact that they can still every so often do something that's like, wow, that's really cool, like that's really cool. So
And that bun is why the trials are part of MSQ.
There you go.
that's not how that works.
Yeah, I love that. It's also cute because it is a traditional food from Mongolia.
Yeah.
And I actually know a lot of role players who even like write about it if their characters are from there, it being one of their favorite foods and things like that. And it's nice to see like the world. I also really loved, I guess this maybe goes more in the earlier story category, but one of the things that I remarked on even when I was doing my playthrough of it was that like dumpling type foods that are, or things that are adjacent to that, buns, stuff like that too, that have that kind of filling, are, I think, one of the most universal foods in the world. Like many cultures have some iteration of them. And I really loved it in that moment because it felt like not only was it literally like a symbol, because the step was sending supplies to Garlemald to try and help it, even though, many people in those regions had been affected directly by Garlemald's invasion. But also then you get that great moment with, what's his name? Euless?
Yeah, Euless. Yep.
Yeah.
Where he talks about how they even remind him of his own food. And so that idea of like, I don't know, crossing culture and reaching out to one another and finding commonalities and common ground. I really liked that because, God, also I just love dumplings, but but it is one of those things where it's a very universal food actually to have that kind of like dough bun with some kind of filling. So
yeah, no, I think,
ravioli.
we got to see when Shadowbringers came out, right? There's the Tessalene scene, right? And we learn about how they make it, where it's basically they just put a ball in her head and just slowly push it out to get the effect, right? But now they have like a bun that they pulled apart and it like actually like pulled. Like I'm really curious, like if there were like weird little tricks and stuff that they had to do.
I'm sure.
Like,
next time they do any kind of video series,
PAX
they'll
panel,
tell us about it.
PAX panel, show me how you animated the boost. That's just really cool to me. And then we'll do music. The 24-man music I thought was really cool. We haven't had that before. We had a fiddle. Like we haven't had a fiddle before, which is really cool. And the way that played into the mechanic, like I didn't talk about this earlier, but there's simple mechanics with the way that it plays into Nofika's mechanics, where you kind of go back and forth. Like that was really cool. I thought that was really neat. Minfina was cool. Minfina was good. Nofika with just when you get in initially.
He said fiddle and then he went to it was this is separate. Yeah.
I was like, what's the fiddle have to do with Nofika?
Everything. Well, it's like a harvest festival.
Yeah. And I actually love that.
Is it playing in that first fight? Am I crazy?
It is. It is playing in the first fight.
Yeah.
Although there is a full lyrical version with the final fight.
No, I knew it was the same like song, but I didn't realize there was a prominent fiddle. So that's just my bad.
But like you even have that one phase with Nofika where you're moving between the two color circles, and while it's not like DDR and Suzaku, it gives you a sense of like almost like a hoedown or something, like a folk dance or a line dance where you're looking at what is called and then you do those steps almost with it, which I like. I think it's cute. Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
It gives you like of the three, goddesses in this. It gives you that strong like fate feel because there's Minfina the young, there's the matronly Nofika, and then there's Nimia, who's kind of the old wiser.
Cries in Halone.
Exactly. Well, yes, I know. Well, she's off on her own. She's not a fate. She's going to do stuff. Yeah, she's going to do stuff.
She's the one feeding the dead people to fates.
But yeah, the whole harvest festival and Minfina being kind of the younger maidenly celebrant, you know what I mean? It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I loved that. I saw a lot of commentary, and these are again people's opinions, and they're totally entitled to that. And I get it. Like when we were talking about like, do you like the first one more or the second? And I saw a lot of people say, oh, I felt like the first Alliance raid just felt so like grand and like very like religious in that sense, and that it was that kind of thing. And I was like, no, I totally agree with that. It feels much more, I guess, churchly holy, if you will. But one of the things I loved, and that even as we were talking about it, that conversation sparked, was the fact that worship traditionally has come in so many forms, you know? You
Mhm.
have actual like organized, church, huge structures like, mosques or, cathedrals or like these huge structures that are very like have their own formal specific, rituals. But then you also have harvest festivals, like you were saying, you have
Mhm.
harvest festivals. You have, the things that the peasants do.
Yeah.
You have even, in Western tradition, more like pagan, style worship. You have more rustic worship, I guess you could say, in certain areas too, that's closer to the
Mhm.
earth, more nature focused. And so I actually overall, I like this raid even more than the first one because to me, it felt so joyous. It felt so,
Mhm.
it was just
Well, I mean,
beautiful.
it's the way that the narrative evolved, right? We get in there for the first tier, and we're like, "Oh my god, we're fighting the gods!" That's like it's
Mhm.
some weird god
That's a good point.
challenge. And
Yeah.
then like we get into the second one, and Nofika's like, "Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's
I'm
up? I'll let you in."
Nofika. Eyes up here. Let's fight."
Mhm.
And it's just more playful, and it's everything in the fight, reflects that. I still wish the mechanics were a little harder,
Sure.
right? I think they went a little lax on that, but I think it fit very well with the narrative and how it was going. So
And I've
Now,
also heard
since
some
go ahead.
parallels. Oh, I was gonna say really fast. Some really great musical analysis that the fiddle and then the lyrical line when it comes in even
Mhm.
has a kind of a symbolic sense of being the two melodies of Menfina and Dalamud, like either side interchangeably, the Hound and
Mhm.
Menfina.
mhm.
And a lot of people have been talking about how it reminds them a lot of like 90s. I don't know, is it like
90s
shoujo or like
anime.
Yeah,
anime?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
like
Yeah,
it's
somebody-
Because she's Sailor Moon. I
I've seen a
told you.
couple of those matches up. Like people
Yeah.
will take the openings from old shoujo anime
Mhm.
and put it on there. I
Yep.
love it.
Yeah. I saw
so
that. That was
good.
great.
Yeah. It's 100%
It
Sailor
works.
Moon.
Works really just.
Yep.
Charles sent me a picture. Would you like to describe this picture, Charles?
Oh, sure. It is all of the all of the goddesses posed as Sailor Moon, like they're in the poses that the 5 inners would have, and it is glorious. It's just beautiful because
And
they're all
the
color
elements.
coded.
The
Yeah.
elements are right. There's
Yeah.
a fire one. There is an ice one.
Yep.
There's a moon and love one, which is the
Mhm.
one you would not think you
Mhm.
would
Yep.
get. There's the earth one. And what's the
Mhm.
last one?
Time,
Okay,
technically.
yeah, time
Time
and shit.
space.
Saturn
one's-
just got here
Time
early.
and
It's fine.
shit.
Saturn's just here early.
It's fate. It's fate.
The god,
It-
god
yeah,
of
technically
space is
fake.
like, oh man, I got replaced with shit.
So yeah, it's pretty on point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Pretty on point.
you could take the song and the fiddle into the courtship dances, and Dalamud is following her constantly, and
Yeah.
it's an interplay between the two of them. Like I could talk about this for literally forever.
Yeah.
It's
still,
so good.
I think the fiddle still feels weird with Halone, but like it really
Sure.
fits well with everything else. So
Yeah.
yeah. The other
You don't have
music,
time to worry about the fiddle with
Mhm.
Alone because she can stab you.
Yeah, she's gonna kill
yeah.
you.
and that's fine.
No time to dance.
She can stab me all she wants.
And that's fine. He's
And that's fine. It's fine. I mean, look, Halone is pretty nice. Like, I like Halone. It depends what you're in the mood for. If you want somebody a little more aggressive, you go Halone. If you just want cuddles, you go with Nofika. I mean, that's just how it is. That's just how it is.
Yeah, so that music was good. Also, the
That's
talked
why they're
We have to
rivals.
talk about the Rubicante track.
Rubicon
Yes.
track. That's what I was gonna say.
Holy shit! So I finished MSQ really late at night. I was up till like 2 a.m. And with the trial kind of being towards the end of that, it was like 1 a.m. I'm super tired. I get in there, music kicks, and I just go, ooh. And then like you have like that transition where you see a little bit of like his domain with like the statues. My draw literally was like actually like it was cool. I loved everything about that.
Yeah.
And then of course Soken on Twitter. Somebody's like, oh,
Yes.
this music is so good. And Soken's like, maybe soon you'll hear about who composed this version. And we're like, oh,
Because
Soken.
they posted the original back in the day. A composer named Hayadane made a remix of the Four Fiends theme, which sounded exactly like that. It was more operatic. It was really funny. Each character was talking about themselves. And Soken responded to
Loving
that.
girls, loving girls.
Yeah, responded to that saying, maybe one day we'll figure out who composed that. And people are like, is he Hyadane? Because that person, whoever they were, did some Mega Man stuff and other things. And they are goofy, just like Soken. It's like, if they're not the same person, they are friends. And I want to know if that's true.
Hayden
just
is
be
a
so amazing.
shard of Soken.
Yeah, you go. Soken, tell us, please.
But yeah, like
Oh my goodness.
that would be so cool. I'm totally expecting like a big blog post
Yeah.
or something on that. Like
But
that's
yeah.
really cool. That music was, oh my god.
The
Like,
music, it helped me get over the fact that I do wish that they would have put the fat pick back in there in the trials, right? Because when we first
The what
got,
back in there?
remember when I was saying they cut the fat out with the trial
okay,
system?
I thought I heard you say the fat, and I was like,
Yeah. Do you guys? Well, it has been 3 hours this right, but the stuff that we lost, part of it I was upset about was there wasn't a remix of the Four Fiends. There was just a straight copy. But with this, I was like, okay, there we go. Okay, that's good. I like this version. This is great.
it is
Cool.
a banger. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
I think is because like that was the first day of the patch. I think I just when I did that or second day. But man, a couple days after people started doing extremes, I bought that orchestrion real so fast.
Oh, yeah.
Once it was a reasonable price, I was like, yeah, no, this is going in the house. Absolutely. Like even that
big
night,
house.
even like that night, I was up for a little bit after finishing MSQ. I'm like working on some stuff. I'm like, all right, YouTube, let's find like somebody that I just needed to listen to it again. Like it is so good. I love it. They've been killing it with some of the tracks lately. Like between like this and Scream, like Post Endwalker has been just, oh my god, so good. All right, that brings us back into just the rest of it, the miscellaneous stuff. We did get a few more ranks with Island Sanctuary. I'm still working through them because there's no way I'm gonna be grinding out the Gathering XP like I did originally for the first 10 ranks.
I need to ride an alligator though, so
I do. Yeah, alligator mount is life. So that's really cool. I'm like 11 and some change, I think, right now, just kind of slowly working through it. Because there's no way at 10 XP a gather I'm gonna do the, I don't know, god, like 10,000 or something ridiculous. I would need like I'm good. I'll just wait. I'll wait for my dudes to craft things and
my favorite thing from the patch is here. And
Yeah.
it's the automatic umbrella. Such a silly thing.
yeah.
It's a great little
I
feature.
love the automatic umbrella. You know, it's funny. Last episode we joked about being able to like dance with it, and I put it on, and sure enough, there was a macro right on the bar. You take it out. There's like a feel for rain macro, and a dance macro, and I'm like, this is so cool. And I tweeted about it, and then I was like, they added this in 6.2. Which goes to show you how much people were using umbrellas before they added the auto umbrella feature. But yeah, it's such like a stupid little thing, and I love it.
I love it.
It's
cute.
great.
And also,
It's wonderful.
My RP character hates getting wet, so I love that. She
So
just
it's perfect
puts
for
umbrella
her.
out on her own. Yeah.
And Ion Sanctuary has a new umbrella you can get, and it lights up a little bit.
It's so dumb looking.
It's a little mammoth umbrella.
well,
it's
yeah.
cute.
Let's yes, but also like in a world where there's only like a handful of umbrellas right now. I'll take the goofy
There's
looking
kind of a lot
one
of them.
over.
There's like 10.
There's yeah, but like half of those are reskins of, or just
I will-
different colors, right?
Yeah,
so
I will say though, like it's I say it's dumb looking, but I say it's dumb looking in the way like the candy house is.
Yeah.
It's silly, but I like it. I think it's
yeah,
cute.
it's dumb and goofy, and it's great.
It'll match someone's style, you know.
Yeah.
Might not be
Yeah.
yours, but someone.
I just like
Yeah.
I like it because it's unique.
Some people just are super into mammoths, and I'm glad.
Mhm.
I'm sure they are happy to have it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Other thing, again, the UI, the clear blue UI theme. Love
Sure.
this. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it.
Waymarked save slots.
Yep.
We have
We got
so
more.
freaking many now. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's my second favorite
That's
thing.
see.
Now, if you would only
it-
let me
it's-
put waymarks down in the middle of fights again, Yoshi Peach.
I
This
know.
is
Never
this is
happened.
one of those things. It's like the Vera and Rothgar hairstyles. It's like, good job doing something that you messed up in the first place.
They're-
I mean,
it's never coming back.
No.
It
Yeah,
wasn't,
it's
it wasn't too
frustrating.
terrible before because you only ever really needed 4,
Yeah.
5,
Yeah.
6. Oops, that's too many.
Mhm.
From the people that brought you a Gaia Duty recorder in 6.3 comes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's a little frustrating, but I mean, hey, I am glad that we have more of them. And I think they did a lot of little quality of life things that are great. Things like
Retainer.
that, you know.
The retainer thing
Oh,
is
yeah,
super
retainer
nice.
thing.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm. Trying to think of like other. I know there were definitely some other small
Just
things that were
furniture
good
in
changes.
general.
New furniture.
There-
Yeah, I love
the
that waterfall
furniture this time
partition.
around,
That's really cool
there's-
looking.
There's some quality stuff in there. Even there's like a
Yeah.
little like a teapot. It's very classic looking. It's adorable. There's a nice sink. I mean, we have some sinks already, but they're very like for a specific purpose. This one's a little bit more would fit anywhere
Just
type.
plain ass sink. Use it as you
Yeah.
will. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. I mean, I felt like all the rewards this time around we got a lot. We got some good ones. You know,
Yeah.
new gear that was good. Rewards. The outfit that comes from Tataru,
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
What did you call that one, Rook?
Boob out.
Titty out.
Titty out.
Titty out.
The titty outfit.
Yeah.
The titty outfit. I guess.
titty out.
One titty outfit. It's great. I love it. It's good.
Yeah.
It looks great.
It's
as
really
well
cool.
with the, like Eastern style parasols. That looks
We
fantastic.
also got we forgot to we kind of breezed over it earlier with PvP. They added new armor sets, new
Yep.
air quotes. Kind of like how when they re-added some of that AF with like the higher res kind of textures, they colored it a little differently. They went and did it with the high Allegan gear, or so like the first and second tier of Bahamut, and then the Crystal Tower gear. So you can get that now with your trophy crystals. So like that high Allegan stuff dies really nice too. So I might pick some of that up for stuff that I haven't touched recently.
I'm glad they added that. I'm glad they're consistently, at least at this point, since it hasn't been that many patches, but perceivably consistently adding new stuff to make people still interested in doing PvP.
Yeah.
It's a great move. But also, I don't care about any of that gear for aiming. It's not good.
No, the aiming
Really?
stuff is a little goofy. But like.
It's not good.
Like, I mean, high Allegan, like tank body, healer body, solid.
Yeah.
I
all good.
love the Crystal Tower, or not the Allegan. I love the bard.
What about the hat? Do you not want the hat?
So cute.
The labyrinth
I mean,
hat?
They're
That's a
better
cool
hats.
hat.
Weird thing.
You're not wrong. The Crystal Tower specific pieces are okay, but also it kind of makes you look like a peppermint candy.
Well,
that's
but
why
these
you
aren't
dye
dyed
it.
that color.
I understand, but
They
still
have
looks that way because the sleeves still do the stripe thing.
No, okay. Well, I guess partially
mean-
because I am a big fan of historical garments and outfits. They're very Renaissance-y, which is what I love.
Yeah.
I don't
kind of
dislike those.
puff
You're not wrong.
sleeve with a little like that's just very much. And I found that it looked less pepperminty with the new version because it's all dark and it has like
They're darker, yeah.
new texture on it and stuff. So I actually bought one, and I think they even reduced the size of those giant honking clamshells on the front of it.
Yeah.
They feel like they're
They did
reduced in
adjust a couple.
size.
No,
Yeah.
no, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Out of all of those sets, no, I did actually like that one, and I didn't recall, but yeah, I do. If I want to look like a peppermint, I'm going to use that set.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do want to look like a peppermint. Approximately like a month ago, it was a good time to look like a peppermint.
Sometimes if you're going to go, fight some goddesses, just dress up like Candy. We'll just eat you up. It's great.
That seems like a bad
Living,
idea. Or a
living
good idea.
the Final Fantasy 14.
Oh, goodness.
Chat also mentioned too they have the new house glam, the new like onsen house
Yep.
glam.
Oh yeah,
Which
that's
is-
a good one.
I love
I was in preparation for potentially getting the house plot. I bought the medium one because if you relocate to a larger size, it upgrades the thing. And so I'm like, okay, I was using the Forge glam, and I was like, well, that's cheaper in the large version than the onsen is. So I upgraded the onsen, and it looks nice, but the issue I have with it is that it flips the side that the bath is on once you go to the large. And I feel like with the plot that I have, it would have been so much cooler to be on the side where it is on the other ones. But it is what it is. It's cool because I like when they've been doing with these housing glams where they'll add in like chairs and tables and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like giving you furniture without giving you furniture, but you still can't put stuff like on the tables or on like the patios that they add.
Yes, you can.
Maybe
I mean, you can, but not
easily. Yeah, like
easily.
there's
Some
ways
of the
to
story
do
of
it
the gym, I would tell you.
if you toggle
Yeah.
back and forth between different glams, and it's kind of weird. So I wish they would make that a little easier to deal with, but it's cool that they keep adding the housing glams. And I know chat's already like, oh yeah, first world problem. I get it. I know. So keep me humble, chat. Housing is still a problem. I have my large. Nothing else matters anymore. Housing's fine. No. Yeah. So I don't know. I thought it was cool. It's cool when they do that. What else have
like
they
that.
added?
They added in some more rewards. I mean, we've talked just briefly about them adding frames to
Yeah.
old tribe quests.
Yeah, so Shadowbringers Tribe Quests and Island Sanctuary got 2 Framers kits as well.
which
Oh,
are
yeah.
great. And then, I mean, yeah, I just felt like the range of different mounts. I mean, oh my gosh, we didn't even talk about this. We got the new treasure map. We got the
Yeah.
new treasure maps
Yeah.
and the shifting gymnasium of
Namam.
Yeah.
Elpis.
Treasure
Elvis
map
time.
of Nagan Mom.
So those came with new
Elpis
rewards.
roulette.
I actually haven't done it yet, and I want
Me
to,
neither.
but I always
Let's go.
we should do it. I keep
Let's
thinking
go.
to myself, I want to do a treasure map night, and then I just like a week goes by, and I'm like, I didn't ask anybody.
There
to
was
do a
something I
treasure
was going to do. I don't remember what it was. Let's do it. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
Let's just do
I
a
would love
treasure
to.
map.
I would love to. Because I still want to get the original mount that you could get when you collected feathers. I still desperately want that
Oh
sucker.
yeah.
Mm.
So
Deerbird.
Deerbird,
Yeah.
yeah.
Deerbird.
Yeah,
But, they added that
figure
in.
it out. I'll have my
Yeah.
people call your people. We'll set it up.
Let's do it.
I was gonna bring up something else too when we were talking about it. Now I forgot what it was. Oh, in chat, the airship mount, the blackjack.
Yes.
4
Yep.
million
Too many
MGP,
monies.
and it also doesn't have its own music, which is sad.
Nope, does not.
It is multi-seater though, right?
Yeah, it is.
4 in
Okay,
person.
4.
Yeah.
And there was a new leap of faith added that just
Yep.
made me think about Manderville.
Mm.
I haven't tried it. I heard it's actually very hard. I heard that you get knocked
watched-
off all the
yeah.
time.
I mean,
I watched the
Yoshida
stream.
in the
Yeah, Yoshida was
live
trying to
letter,
do
he
it.
fell quite a few times, and I
Yes.
I will admit I giggled every time he fell after he
That-
gave me crap for the Titan fight.
Reminds me
at PAX,
of a
but-
really stupid thing about Aganon. So it's named that because it's like a contest. That's what it means in Greek.
Yeah.
But
Oh.
also it's related to agony because it's hard to do. So when I saw that word, I was like, I wonder what that. Oh, it's a contest, and it says as a footnote, it has the same root word as agony because it's supposed to be a fight. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, you picked the wrong door. You're going to be in agony. Yeah, makes
Well,
sense.
and it's supposed to be a testing ground
Yep.
for what's the word I'm looking for?
Creation.
Familiars.
Yeah,
Familiars.
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 Isn't it just the roulette version of the map though?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep. Trying to
What
think
else?
of what else. That might be the bulk of everything. I mean,
Oh,
obviously
wait,
we'll
no,
get.
Hey, wait! I got something.
Mhm.
New trust dungeons.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We got
Yeah.
new trust dungeons for Heavensward, and Gooble is hilarious.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
frog that escorts you to Matoya's cave is your tank, and he has dialogue, and it's so
it's
funny.
his-
and
I
cute.
Hysterical. The only thing that throws me is because the frog is like the flex class character, so he's a tank, but he has a cane. So that's
uses
I
these
would
little-
love to see him with a little sword and shield. That would be adorable.
It's so cute. I haven't done all of those dungeons yet, but they also actually with that, I guess we should have talked about this in gameplay. They redid the final fight of
Etherochemical.
Aetherochemical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aetherochemical was redone, and it's fine. It's more in line with, I guess, what you expect out of fights, but they took away the whole thing where you have to get in the little portal things. Like, you still have that attack, but you don't do that. And they also took away a lot of the like spontaneous arena effects. So now it's these elemental orbs that spawn and then get like pulled towards each other, and when they hit that, they just detonate various pattern attacks underneath them. So you have to like anticipate where you need to move, and then for the second set it does the reverse.
Mhm.
I really don't like this tendency to make fights easier so that trust can do them.
I know.
honestly kind
Yeah.
of wish
Mhm.
that there were two versions.
What
if
I-
you're gonna do it with trust, have this easy version. If you're
What
gonna do it with
I will
people,
say,
have
I-
this one that
yeah.
won't make you brain dead bored.
Mhm.
What I will say
Yeah.
I do appreciate, and I haven't done them because and that's also a hard thing too. It's like, okay, I will never ever play these dungeons ever again, even if they add trust into them, because any new job that comes out that I might want to level by myself before I get into a party is going to be above that level anyway. But I do appreciate when they do these changes that they might, in some cases, take it as an opportunity to introduce mechanics that are later in the game.
Sure.
Yes.
Like I know we saw that with like the last wave for sure. I don't know,
Mhm.
like you talking about like taking like the little bubble things. You get like taking that out. That seems odd because that comes later. Like that, they could have kept that, and I think it would have been
Yeah.
fine.
It'll help you learn it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the NPCs would have a problem with that, I'm sure.
Yeah, most likely, yeah.
And it would be annoying for you because it's like you have to go whichever one they don't go to, and it
It's-
might be all the way across the map.
Well, then you add a couple extra bubble. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
I
weird
agree.
because it's a mix between, right? Because at this point, and I
Oh.
say this lovingly, these changes aren't for us, right?
Yeah.
Like
That
they're for
said-
people coming in that are newer to the game. Yeah, we might get them in like a roulette or something, but
When a new expansion comes out, you go through all of these old dungeons again a lot. I level everything
Yeah.
up to 90, and I go through all these dungeons again a lot. And every time I have a friend join, I'm like, ask me to come with you to things. I love to run the old dungeons. I see these a fair amount, and to see them simplified in this way just makes me sad.
I mean,
And they did. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, it's not only just the dungeons that they've simplified. So many more jobs are just not fun at those levels anymore.
Yeah.
Like you're just waiting for any amount of like complexity. It's all gone. It's gone. You can do
Maybe.
trusts, and you know,
maybe.
Mhm.
I'm gonna tinfoil hat this on with like a giant like LED Christmas lights on it, just like completely obvious, right? What if as they're doing these changes, they're getting them ready for scalable dungeons?
No, Fusion. I love you and I wish, but no, there's no way.
I tried to throw him an olive
Yeah.
branch.
I know. I wish. I do. That would be
It'd be nice.
amazing. But I just can't imagine. I mean, with New Game Plus being something that they put in, which I still think they could easily motivate more people to do by putting unique rewards or something, some kind of achievement system or something tied to it. With that being in the game, I mean, I do think there's a reason to go back. I actually have been playing every single one of these dungeons as they've come out with Trust, because I really like seeing what they do to put like
Yeah.
additional character beats, the
Yeah.
lore, little bits of story, what they kind of envision for these moments. I will say that the dialogue in Aetherochemical wasn't really worth it. I wouldn't say you need to do that one again to get
some of it though too.
It was fine.
Like
That's
the way
weird,
that
'cause
they
that's such a
make it
big
wor-
story one.
right.
I
but-
know. I was
but
surprised,
the way,
honestly.
yeah, I mean the way they do that though, it's like you don't even have any science. It's just like random ass adventurer NPCs or something that you go
do
into.
have
with,
scions oftentimes. I mean, for a lot of it too. I mean, Isael shows up in some of them. You take Emmerich in one of the most recent ones. You take and there's bonus dialogue. There's actually really cool stuff.
Okay.
Like was it the Aerie that already came out?
yes, yeah.
You go with Estinian and Isael and
Alphino probably.
Alphino.
Yeah.
Alphino, yeah.
And there is some really fantastic dialogue in there where Isael shares more of her opinions on how you're harming the dragons and what that means to her. And like,
Yeah.
because that was always something where I was like, she's just cool with us like up here
Yeah, this
killing
is
all of
fine.
these and like the babies. And like, so like she has more dialogue about herself and her opinions on things. And actually it's really sad because in the last fight with, is it Tiamat? No. Yes? Yes.
Which dungeon? Aerie?
Aerie is
It's Nidhogg.
Nidhogg is Aerie.
yeah.
Nidhogg. Well, I think you can take her into the one that has Tiamat in it as well.
Tiamat. They're saying in
Tiamat is what they
Tiamat,
call
That's
her. Tiamat.
that's
Tiamat.
the
Somal.
yeah, the mountain.
Somal.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Somal. And she like the whole time pleads with her not to do
Aw.
this. And it's like it's actually really impactful and I loved it. And we also have, I haven't done this one yet, but I'm really excited to. In the most recent one, in the most recent batch that we got with 6.3, we have I always forget names in the moment. I'm so sorry. We have the Scary Doll, Calcabrina one,
Yeah.
Anti-tower.
Anti-Tower,
Yep.
and Thancred goes with you.
Mm.
And I was
Oh.
like, so I'm really curious to see what happens with
I
that.
think with those when they go back and change them, right? Because I think, like again, right, largely the changes are for new players coming in, but
Yeah.
I think they also don't want to do anything that would alter the narrative, right? Because, for example, like Ethereochemical, how boring that is because you just go in with like random NPCs, right? But there weren't any other like important people that went with you necessarily for that, and they're not going to be like, oh yeah, Emmerich went and helped you stop that, and you're like, that didn't happen. So they can't just add that, right? And I get it. But
They're
it is
working within
cool.
a confined space, but it's cool when they add it.
It is
Yeah.
it is nice to see that they're kind of fleshing out the characteristics of these characters
know,
that we already
and
do without
people-
doing anything. Yeah.
I was
Go
gonna say
ahead.
really quick polish note actually with this patch that I didn't know about. those generic NPCs, while they aren't that exciting.
Yeah.
Like I mean, you have like a thaumaturge, warrior, they're like, when you start out the game, they're supposed to just kind of be adventurers, or I always in my head, for some reason I thought they were Grand Company members or something. Like, but they're like generic adventurers that accompany you. And I didn't realize this, but people were telling me about this as I was running the dungeons live. Those groups over the course, they all have defined personalities. Some of the snark is really good. Like the thaumaturge is actually really funny, but they evolve over the course of the game. So in the later dungeons, they're wearing different gear sets and things, and they
that I've
have
noticed, yeah.
like
They
they have
evolve.
additional stuff, which is really cool because you can kind of see them taking that journey with you. So that's a nice little polish touch.
Yeah.
I'm
They're
sorry,
getting
Zen.
less bad.
Oh, no,
too.
it's
Oh
great.
no, what was I gonna say? The thing. No, my note was not important. It was in the previous versions of Aery, you could just kill the babies and leave the mothers sleeping, and it bumps me out that she's awake now.
Yes, I did not care for that change either.
Yeah, like it was kind of fun just to have that little bit of ha ha ha, sneak by, kill your children. Oh no, you wake up, where are they? No, not that part. That wasn't fun.
Wow.
But,
You
just
think
like,
you know
kidding,
somebody.
Kidding.
Then they just go
kidding.
murder babies. Wow.
Kidding. But
Wow.
no, that was always kind of a fun thing to see if people were paying attention and to sneaking past this sleeping thing.
Mhm.
Sure.
Yeah. That's all I can think of. I can't think of anything else from this patch.
Man, I think
feel
that's
like
that's the bulk of it. Yeah. So not surprising, we gave this a solid 8 out of 10. Some stuff we didn't like, most of the stuff we did like. So
I'm
there you
excited
go.
to see the continuing content. I mean, this upcoming week we have Ultimate that's releasing,
Yes.
which is going to be phenomenal.
And
Do
you're
the plug.
shoutcasting,
Do
are
the
you
plug, Rook. Do
shouting?
the plug.
I am.
Go ahead.
I'm actually shoutcasting for this one more than ever before. So I'm really excited. There's going to be a handful of us that will be on pretty much every single day to keep you updated on the ultimate process. And I will be there oftentimes 2 times a day during this race for the week that it happens. So, I mean, yeah, I'll be doing a lot of evening shifts as well. And you'll catch me midday some days too. So if anybody's curious, if you want to tune in, I absolutely encourage it. Whether or not you're an endgame raider, it's an incredible community event. We raise money for charity, and there's a lot of different things that if you donate, are giveaways or incentives for that, as well as just actually seeing the story unfold, because they almost always do something that is a super cool extension of the world, the lore, the absolute peak of their combat design in this game that sets a precedent and draws a lot of eyes. So
No more beans. She moved and they had to throw the beans away.
yeah, we had to throw them away.
Yeah.
What a shame.
It's really rough. And yeah, I did. I threw them all out.
Good.
They're all gone now.
As they should.
Maybe I'll
That's
I'll
what you
find
have to
something
do when
else.
you move. It's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you throw away all your beans. I mean, yeah.
Yep. And then we also have the new Deep Dungeon that'll be coming out. And it was really exciting. If anybody missed Angelus Demonis's run during Awesome Games Done Quick, check it out. He is incredibly good at Deep Dungeons. And the way he talks about them, I think, is so enlightening, especially if you're looking to do solo runs or you're looking for unique solo challenges in the game. The breadth of knowledge he has and how much fun he makes it look, even when it's some incredibly difficult
Watching it,
content,
like
is
the
cool.
first half of it, I was like, I kind of want to like go in and try this. And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's cool though. But I'm excited to see those too, because I think that'll really round out the patch, even though it'll technically be, its own patch. But
patch,
like,
Yeah, World First Race is going to be
2.0.
fantastic.
Patch
Make sure to
window.
check that out. That's twitch.tv/mogtalk. I can't wait. I love watching that whole like week where they do the World First stuff. It's going to be so cool. So
fun
make sure to
time.
go and check that out. Is there a charity this time for that?
there is. It is.
I'm sorry I put you on the spot. I
It is
figured
a
you
really
would just know.
Cool charity,
It's
very
so
worthwhile.
good. Like really worth
they
it.
really need the
Great.
help, and if you want to contribute, then
The funniest,
all
the
you have
funniest
to
part
do
about this is I remember
is-
talking with Rook one time about like just like doing the shoutcasting and stuff. She's like, yeah, like I'm always prepared. I always have like a spreadsheet with all the info.
Well,
I haven't made
she's
my
not
spreadsheet
shoutcasting
yet.
right now.
I haven't made my spreadsheet yet.
Okay.
That's my project this weekend, Fusion.
I'm sorry.
I actually am not sure. I think in the past, hold on. It's sponsored this time by Corsair,
It is,
which is
yeah.
great because
So the
this
world
is one of the-
first team.
Hell
I
yeah,
just
sponsor.
saw this. I'll do this while you look. Yeah, I thought it was really cool. Frosty posted this earlier. Corsair Frosty worked his ass off to get this. This is a really cool thing. The world first team is going to get just a prize package. Each member is going to get a prize package with there's a gaming chair, mouse, keyboard, headset, mouse pad. Like that's really cool. Cool. Shout out to Corsair for doing that. That's really neat.
And to Frosty for working your butt off.
Yeah. I can't imagine pitching that and getting that set up. That couldn't have been easy. Rook is thinking real hard right now.
I mean, I'm the tales of what they do for WoW, though. Like, this is such a small scale ask, I feel.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
I mean, this is the thing, though, right? 14 can and should have something on par with WoW.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, 110%. And this is actually, although it doesn't seem like it, maybe it doesn't seem like it to outside people. This is a huge first step. To get an official sponsor on board, to have these goodies, these giveaways. Even we as casters have some Corsair technology that we'll be showing off as we do the race. But this is a huge thing because that's how WoW does what it does at that level. You know, they are able to pay everybody involved, whereas Mog Talk traditionally has been everybody, we all do it because we want to, because we want to be a part of it, and we donate that time and energy. And Frosty historically has done it using literally only whatever revenue comes into the channel, and then doing this for a great cause for charity, where all of that goes back to charity in this huge effort. So this is a great first step, and I think if we have a good showing, and if people are excited, and even if you see it and you you at Corsair and you're like, thanks so much for sponsoring this, or like you respond on things or whatever, or if you win one of the giveaways, be sure to like talk about it and like post about it, because that's how we're able to do bigger stuff, longer coverage, actually bring in a ton of people, up all of the production value, and really make it as big as it deserves to be. So
give that support if you had the time and availability and stuff.
So make sure to go check that out. Obviously, we will be plugging that as well on the socials. It's always so much fun.
That we were looking for is a secret until later on. So keep an eye out and be surprised.
It's really good.
Is there like a charity to get the Aetheryte radio host back into Rook's Island Sanctuary pasture?
That's probably it. No,
that's probably.
I don't know why I can't find it. I mean, it will
last time around,
over.
it was Doctors Without Borders for Ukraine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
it was
last time.
Because that was just happening.
It had just happened.
Gosh.
Yeah, I feel silly. I'm not sure. I can't find it right now, but we'll have it, and you'll all know next week. It'll be a great charity. Frosty always gives a lot of thought to it, and they try to find something that they feel like is going to be timely and important, or so.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that's it. We did the thing.
That's the show.
Good job, everybody.
We made it.
Yay. Woo. Woo. If you want to find me on the internet, you can do that Twitter and Twitch at Raffledurg. Also on YouTube, RaffledurgX. Zanidra?
What's up? You can find me on Twitter at Zanidra_A. You can find me on what's it called? Twitch. This platform we're using right now.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to catch you off guard.
No, I'm just hungry. No, you can find me on Twitch, mostly on the D&D channel that we always plug. Plus the word, number, shot the word. On Twitch, there are underscores between. On YouTube, there are not underscores between yet. Maybe I'll add some underscores.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Fancy.
We're going to have a show tonight if anybody gets bored at 11 Eastern. We're going to play D&D Diablo. And it's going to be fun. No, I'm done. Sorry.
You're fine. There was a pause. I was like, was that it? I think that's it.
I'm good. I'm done. It's good.
Okay. Now that we're done, I'll do now. This is your time to shine. Where can people find you on the World Wide Web?
Here and only here. Forever. No, also on plus the word one, the number, shot the word. Probably a little bit more often in the future. Because there's a lot of, tabletop talk, and there's a lot of other systems that
things have happened. Like if you don't follow the tabletop scene, things have happened.
Things have happened, and I would love to do more one-shots of just random systems, just to show, hey, there's some other random systems out there that are really fun. So keep an eye on that. Other than that, yeah, still working on my OnlyFans. We'll see. We'll see. I actually have a few ideas now,
Okay.
especially with this tabletop stuff. You know,
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm excited.
That's it. Rook.
Yes, hello. I'm Rook, aka Rookery. That's ROOKURI. You can find me on Twitch at Rookery. You can find me on YouTube at Rookery, where I post more Final Fantasy XIV and Guild Wars 2 content, as well as sharing my big feelings about all the content we've discussed. I put my playthroughs up there, and then I live play during the week when I'm not on this podcast or the other podcast that I co-host, The Lightbringers, on Fridays for Guild Wars 2. And you can find me on Twitter at Rookery_. So come by sometime. I always love talking about the game or sharing my ridiculous big feelings or nerding about lore. And I do have actually in the works, thanks to a poll that we took, we're going to be having some lore tour streams very soon on my channel. Probably not next week because of the ultimate aforementioned race to
Oh,
Ultimate.
do you not have time with that going?
Yeah, I might not have time. But beyond that, we're going to start adding into our schedule some research days where we'll go around and we'll take a look at this gorgeous world that they have made for us here in 14. And we'll be analyzing, the meaning of various things, the lore behind various things, how they kind of tell the story of the zone, and really going into that so we can immerse ourselves more in the incredible detailed world that 14 has built, because it's chef's kiss. I don't know if you could hear my doorbell ring in the distance, but it did.
Well, and of course, you're also going to cover, I saw this on Twitter, we're going to talk about how everything affects the salmon population as well, right?
Absolutely. Fish lore as well. Yeah, that doorbell was lore coming a knockin', so get ready. It's happening. Yeah.
That poor fish.
It's fine.
Did you have the eye? Can you just like glue it in, or?
It's probably on my desk somewhere.
I think you should replace it with a googly eye.
Yes.
That way you can have like a serious fish and then like a goofy ass fish if you turn it around.
Yeah.
Or I could put another one on this side and just leave it off this side. That way it is
Oh,
a
there you
flounder.
go.
Oh, there you go.
Anyway, if you want to email us or contact us as the show, you can email us aetheryte@gamerscape.com. You can tweet at us at Aetheryte Radio. And of course, you can find us as Gamer Escape on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Discord, discord.gg/gamerescape. We have a spoiler chat channel on there for the patch, but that's going to go away because it's been a couple weeks. So if you haven't done the MSQ yet, maybe go do it.
Why?
Be very careful. Also, why are you still here?
I mean,
Thanks for talking to us instead of doing it.
Still be here, but also go do the MSQ.
Spoilers.
It's fine. Yeah, that's going to do it for us this week. So thanks everybody for hanging out, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.